forged in the fray. From the United States dawn to the kingdom's gray. A voice for the real, I'll never fold. On the airwaves front, my truth I hold.
I crossed the sea, left my homeland's light, to battle for truth in the kingdom's fight. They strike at dawn on PSB's early call. Time zones won't break me, I'll stand through it all. Ripples my fire, a coin to ignite, a future of freedom, I'll wage this fight. What's the cost to stand when the world's gone astray? Can a spark of truth light a darkened day? I stand on the line where the brave don't flee. Crypto's my weapon, it sets the truth free. Through the storm, in the scorn, I'll carve my way. Hear my voice, my fight with based Amy today. Does a warrior rest when the battle's won? I dream of a shore neath the rising sun, a haven of palms, my island to be, a hard-earned refuge where my soul's set free. The line holds firm, it's a spark we ignite, a blockchain's promise, our guiding light. This is based Amy, unyielding I stand, shaping the future with truth in my hand.
The line holds firm, it's a spark we ignite, a blockchain's promise, our guiding light. This is based Amy, unyielding I stand, shaping the future with truth in my hand.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yeah, won't do that one again. Let me just double check that you can hear me. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's Wednesday, the 21st of May, 2025, and Based Amy here. I gotta say again, out there into the ether, thank you to Zap for putting that video together for me. And I have to get my videos, and so maybe I'll just sort of cycle them around, because I said I do appreciate. I can't tell you how much it moves me when somebody takes the time to put a video together that is meaningful. Let's put it that way. So I just want to say hello to the DLive crew. Have you got sound? Who got sound? I've got sound. Right, can I get a 5x5, please? Refresh your screen. Refresh your screen. If you can't hear me, because I do, I can see my audio is working. We have UK Neil in Rumble in the Jungle. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for your links. Base T, of course, is in the house. I'm not sure why. What are you trying to do to me? Base T, have you got sound? And then you say, silly me, I have too. Well, you just didn't turn it up. Anyway, good evening to Beach Bear, Trouble 3. I hope you're feeling better. I understand that you were in a bit of pain. And I'm hoping your pain is eased. Yeah, look, so much going on. We are on Wednesday, I say, it's the 21st of May. I gotta tell you now, what may help, if I don't get through everything tonight, I've just started recently doing this, where I put up my intentional coverage of what I intend to do on my website, basedamon.com. And to say what I'm going to talk about. And I have to say, you know, as the day progresses, events happen. This morning I was hosting Patriot Soapbox, and I covered a few topics this morning. I had a little sort of rough plan for that this morning, and covered a few topics. But as the news goes on in the day, especially in the time of President Trump, the news cycle is just incredible. It's hard to keep up with. And, you know, sometimes the man, he just is, what he did today in the Oval Office, live on air, to the President of South Africa, was truly something to behold. It was just anybody who thinks that President Trump is a shill, is a Zionist, all this crap, you know, you're just idiots. You really are stupid. You're stupid. And that goes for David Clues of Unity News Network and his sidekick, whose name I never can remember. But I think he does a sort of recording from the pub or something. Anyway. You know, it's just the hope not hate, or hate not hope, it just keeps on screaming at me. Especially, I confess, at the end of my show on, I guess it was on Monday night, when I ended the stream, what popped up on my display was David Clues, his face on Unity News on DLive, and you know, I just caught the last bit of what he was talking about, which I had no idea. I hadn't seen it, obviously. Anyway, I decided to just check who he was referring to, because it was being a bit, well, just David, really, about his guests. And I could not believe my ears. I had no idea who the person was he was talking about, but his name is David Betts, who's a professor at King's College, London, on to do with, I think he's a history professor, or something to do with civil wars, or, you know, I have to see. I'll look it up. But anyway, this man, I have a new respect for. I do. I have to say, professor, this guy, he proved himself to be a professor, and he just, it was, you have to watch it. It was a display, the likes of which, again, I said it's Donald Trump today with the South African president, this professor with David Clues, who thinks he is Mr. Know-it-all, who I'm more convinced than ever, after watching his performance with this professor, absolutely no doubt in my mind that he's connected to the lefty loons of the hope not hate, hate not hope sphere. He's got Zionism derangement syndrome to the point of derangement. And yeah, anyway, I'm going over this. I'm not going to talk about it all tonight, because it was just epic. On my website, in fact, I think I have the link to it with David Clues. So yeah, I do. I'm sure I put the link to his. Yeah, there it is. Right, David Betts was the professor. I mean, I have to say, I've got a new regard for professors, even though my opinion of those who are referenced as professors and people of learning, scientists, all of that really went to another level of, well, bad during the pandemic. So I'm on a skeptical level. So when I have a man who's like this, who did, it just was epic to witness. David Clues having his, exposing himself as a very troubled man. Anyway, first of all, I want to cover what Donald Trump did. Okay, David Clues is just a by the by, and I may take the time to do a. It was too bad I couldn't do a scope on scope with David, because that would have been very entertaining. Yeah. Let me just check the chat. Sorry, I've just been wandering off. Wait a minute. Oh, Tina BR is in the house. Good evening to you, Beach Bear. Wait, what happened? Sounds fine. Hi, Amy in chat. Hello, Surgeon. Hello, Tina. Unfortunately, it gets insulting from listening to their mouths. Okay, I'm not really sure what the conversation is there. Just quickly double checking, and I'm going to continue now. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to show President Trump and I'm going to give you a sort of clip into the past because my concerns have always been for justice. I don't like just violence for the sake of it, and when I have witnessed really, really big major catastrophes and horrific acts of violence committed against people just because of the color of their skin, who they are, whatever, it's really got to me. And I'm going to go over that in a moment. First, I'm going to tell you Bitcoin is at an all-time high at 108,457. The coin market cap is at $3.4 trillion as of tonight, right now. XRP's at $2.38. And we're getting ready for liftoff on that one very soon. But now, let me just take you back to my page, right? So, Donald Trump tonight, it's just not very long ago, and thanks to UK Neil for the heads up on this, hosted the president of South Africa, and the horrors that have been committed against the white South African farmers over the years. Well, let me play the video that was played. Is this the video that was played by the White House? Actually, no, this was just one part of the video where the crosses were. Hang on. Sorry, my sincere apologies. I thought I'd put the link to the other video, which is the one that the White House played for the president of South Africa. It's not funny, but it's funny. Okay, you'll get this. Oh yeah, Tommy Robinson is going to be released, but then he's going to be charged with harassment, alarm, or distress to reporters. Stitched up by the state. People think he's a shill. It's lots going on today. Okay, here we go. This is the video that President Trump showed the South African president in the Oval Office while he was sitting next to him. And in fact, wait, sorry, I keep apologizing. I have to do it in the right order, okay? So first I'm going to play you this, I believe.
In that whole process as well, and the moves that you're making are fully supported by us because we would like to see the end of that war.
Sure. I called Zelensky, and they said, he's in South Africa. I said, what the hell is he doing in South Africa?
He was talking to us.
We got this game. That's a strange one. I said, what are you doing in South Africa?
Yes.
That's a strange one.
He's trying to make peace. But we're taking him. You know, we were lucky because we had the great Nelson Mandela, who taught us how to.
Who was a terrorist? Don't forget, Nelson Mandela has got this terrible, right? Nelson Mandela, bad. Didn't know it at the time. Since found out he was in fact a terrorist. But anyway.
Create peace, to make peace. So we were imparting some of those lessons to him, some of those learnings. And I specifically mentioned to him that this is how Nelson Mandela taught us, that when you want to have a peace in a country, do it on an unconditional basis and sit down and talk. And that's precisely what I'm sure he's going to heed.
Well, I wanted to see what happens with that when it's there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of death. It's a bloodbath.
It is. Unfortunately.
I get the satellite pictures of that field, of that killing field. You never saw anything like it in your life. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that goes on, but I think we've made big progress. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No, not you. Right here. He's from South Africa. Go ahead, please.
What are you expecting on the ICJ case? Are you expecting South Africa to drop that? Is that what you're trying to do?
On which case?
The
the International Criminal Justice?
I don't expect anything, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know. It's they've got cases, a lot of anger there, tremendous anger. I don't expect anything. We'll see what happens. We'll have a ruling, and who knows what the ruling is going to mean. Yeah.
On that subject of Gaza, Mr. President, are you going
Gaza.
to be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Israel's renewed offensive there? There's been a lot of concern from European countries. The Pope has expressed concern. Are you going to be asking?
We're just leading up to it. It's going to the epic bit is going to start. We're just sort of getting an idea of how the conversation was going, because it's just an amazing way it builds up. So it's in very shortly we'll get to the juicy bit.
Prime Minister Netanyahu to tone down the offensive in Gaza to let more aid in?
Was that a question or a statement? This guy, you never change
Mr.
it.
President, this time, what would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President.
You know, I should put this subtitles on. So she said, what will it take for you to recognize that there is no white genocide in South Africa? I mean, this is just, look. It just couldn't have been scripted better. The South African president comes in. Talk about foot in mouth. I mean, seriously, it's like, no, you should have just shut up. Shut up. Anyway, here we go.
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our president will respond to you.
Yeah, let me-
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
How to read the situation completely wrong in... Oh. The more I listen to this, the better it gets, okay? So, here we go. Get ready.
So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to
Condescending.
their stories,
Condescending.
to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it.
Sure.
And we have documentaries, we have news stories. And is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn
Natalie.
I could show you a couple of things. And it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land.
Okay, so I'm going to play the video that they're listening to. Okay? This is the video. So, this is what they're going to be listening to. It's just so that you can hear and see it better. This is the video they played.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South African occupy land. That's who we are.
Honorable member,
you want to do.
Speaker,
you can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament.
Honorable. Yes, honorable member.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Nyamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa. To kill, Nyamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Shoot to kill. Yamaza.
I just shouldn't remember. I mean, obviously, we've got this is being played, right? I'm showing you this video because it's obviously easy to see. You've got the President of the United States, the President of South Africa, who's overseeing all of this, knows about all of this, and being played to the world, which has not been addressed for years.
Kill the brewer, the farmer. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Brr, pa. Pa! Brr, pa! Shoot to kill! Yamaza! Kill the poor! The farmer!
Disgusting.
Kill the poor! The farmer! Brr, pa! Pa! Brr, pa! Pa!
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we have not called for the killing of white people. At least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter. They
Say
freak
what?
out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies.
Disgusting.
Sizobadula, bazobalega dula. Sizobadula, bazobalega dula.
Who will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America.
So this is the I've seen all these videos, okay, in the past, and I'm going to play something for you before we get to the rest of the conversation. But of course, this is the video that shows that each cross represents a white farmer who was murdered, slaughtered in South Africa. And some people still deny that white South African Boers are persecuted and say they don't deserve asylum because they're white. Unbelievable. Horrible. Sickening. I feel sick. I feel sick listening to this again and again. I've heard it so many times. Total silence from the Western media. Disgusting, fake stream media. Enemedia. The Enemedia. Right? So that goes on, right? All those crosses. I mean, it's painful to watch, and I feel sick, right? So this is going on for years. And as it was quite rightly said, yeah, Katie Hopkins did a documentary on it, as did, I think, Lauren Southern. She did a documentary as well. And nothing. Radio silence. So, of course, in the infamous summer of 2020, I'm going to carry on with the Trump thing in a minute, right? But in the summer of 2020, the 6th of June, I went to London. Of course, we were in the lockdown. They were just sort of easing up some things, but I think we were still restricted quite a bit. And it was the BLM, right? The George Floyd, remember? The good old George Floyd, the English protest on behalf of George Floyd. And I was there covering it. I got a lot of footage. And this one sign of this woman was holding up, because I obviously hadn't, this is, again, 6th of June 2020. Let me remind you. So I saw this lefty whitey holding the sign up, and I decided to ask her a question. And so here's the question. It's only a short video, but this is what I said.
What do you think about against white people, though? Like in South Africa and Zimbabwe? Do you think the farmers? Well, I can't really speak about that because I think there's such a long history.
Such a long history.
Of agriculture. Anger that people have. So that justifies them killing white people? No, I don't think so. I don't know if I really want to engage in that. Well, but you've made a beautiful statement, which is lovely. It's lovely and lovely if it can be applied. Well, you're holding it. Well, you're...
Remember BLM, right? Black Lives Matter. Here she is, her lefty, paid bloody whatever virtue signaling woman. And she had this self-righteous sign up, beautiful sign with a beautiful message. However, of course, only applied to certain people.
Making a statement by having that. Yeah, no, right? I believe in. You agree with that? I believe in peace. Yeah. So the fact that until the philosophy that holds one race superior and another inferior is fine. Who does that? Do you?
Until, I mean, I don't have the whole side. It's until all basic human rights are guaranteed to all without consideration of race, the dream of peace, world citizenship, and international will remain but a fleeting dream, whatever.
Do you? I have got to be very mindful of my condition. So you felt superior, have you? I've been brought up with opportunity. And have you felt superior? What do you tell me this? Well, because I'm doing a broadcasting down YouTube. I just wonder.
Anyway. You know, I caught her out doing a virtue signaling. Said the thing is, that's what I do. I challenge people. So here's the sign, right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Vitale.
Hold
Thanks
on.
to all of the witnesses. We'll
Hang
now
on a
have
second.
some
Sorry, the
rounds of
YouTube carried on
questioning.
playing. Sorry about that. So I will get back to Trump in a minute, right? President Trump in a minute. But I just want to tell you what her sign said, okay? It said, until basic human rights are fully guaranteed to all without regard to race, the dream of lasting peace, world citizenship, the rule of international morality will remain but a fleeting illusion to something pursued but never attained. La la la. So I said, what about the white farmers? How about that? Is that what? Anyway, so it really got to me. And I couldn't cover it too much because I swear it was so disturbing, so distressing when the fake stream media wasn't covering it. And, I didn't talk about it as much as I like to because I knew it was futile and it just made me sick to know that the English government just let it happen. So anyway, here we go. Back to President Trump. And today, I'll just get to the end of the video while that they're watching. So this is today at the Oval Office. And here's the crosses. So back to President Trump. I've been wanting this for years. The South African farmers, oh my days, they're rejoicing. Finally, somebody cares.
No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. Okay.
Oh, so the president of Africa. Oh, where? Oh, gosh, where is that? I've never seen this video before. He is such a scumbag. A little bit uncomfortable, adjusting himself in his seat because, oh my days. Get ready for this one. Get the popcorn ready. Here we go, all right? Can you hear the sound okay with them? Can you hear the sound all right? Because I'm not sure how much you can hear, but I've got the subtitles up, so I'm not going to interrupt from now on, okay? Here we go.
Sides of the road, you have crosses.
Oh, wait.
There's approximately Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. That's
Now, we know they're not burial sites. They're just representations of the people who lost their lives. Right. We know, Beach Bear. Thank you, Family Low. Thank you for the lemons. Thank you, Beach Bear. Do you know what I love? Is that he makes him watch it till the end. He'd had enough, right? The president, the South African president, was so uncomfortable. But Donald Trump was like, no, it's not finished yet. You keep watching that, okay? Every cross represents a life, you scumbag. All right? It's just a beautiful thing. It was just a torturous time. Fabulous. Right, watch how I said I wasn't going to interrupt, but watch the South African president. He's had enough. He wants to finish it. And Donald Trump just continues looking at the screen. Still watching. Still going. More crosses to look at.
They told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. That's
we need to find out.
Those people. Okay.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, you to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead.
Do you notice as well? I want you to notice as well. He has the images, the very horrific images of a murder. These are the paperwork. And he has it pointing that way, He's not talking about it yet, but he has it up for the camera to see, so that they can see what he's holding very clearly, right? He's not just waiting. So he's going to hold it up. This guy is trying to hope that the floor will open up and magically have him vanish, is what he's hoping for. Not going to happen. You're in the hot seat, baby, and it's going to get hotter for you.
You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that. His name is Peter something. He's a terrible reporter. Quiet. Let's go.
Thank you so much. President Trump, Anna Pilastra from ENCA in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know. To pick anyone. White South Africans. are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you.
No, I'd like
so when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently. And,
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter. This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President Ramaphosa?
Your reaction to those videos, Mr.
President Trump.
Well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it. But this is a tremendous look. This is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are. And you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march, they had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Well, let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy.
Oh, good.
We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves.
Just quickly, I know I said I was going to drop patronizing arrogance from this piece of work, okay? How he speaks to Donald Trump as though he's some kind of nincompoop and doesn't understand. Let me just explain to you, your eyes are deceiving you. It's not real, okay? So arrogant. Oh, he doesn't get away with it, though. That's the beautiful thing.
Political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to
them. There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
been utilizing. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off. They died violently. And you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out, because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built. 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force. That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems,
Oh, give me a break.
people need to sit down around a table.
Oh, we were taught by Nelson Mandela. Please. Nelson Mandela. I mean, seriously, a lesson from a terrorist? That's great. Oh, so he said, oh, you sit around a table. He's talking to the Art of the Deal man himself, the author. Hello, you patronizing piece of you-know-what.
To talk about them.
Well, there are
and this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters. So the issues that concern you as the United States.
Those are all recent. Those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns.
Oh, concerns.
And these are concerns.
Concerns.
That we are willing to talk to you about.
Oh, thank you.
Let me just add quickly.
Oh, thank you for being willing to talk about the fact that you're overseeing a genocide against white people. That's so wonderful of you. Do you hear him? I love the way Donald Trump just casually reached over, grabbed the pile, and quietly handed it. Well, I think there's the problem right there. Just right back at you, dude. You can try and squirm your way out of it, but here we go. Let's just watch that again. I mean, it's not funny, okay? It's obviously not a funny topic, but the way Donald Trump, I mean, the art of the deal, right? Well, you know, there's a bit of a problem, but, you know, it's not really that bad.
To this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around a table and talk about them.
Well, there are
and this is precisely
there are problems.
what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters.
It's the problem right there.
Issues that concern you as the United States.
Those are all recent.
And
those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. Let me just add quickly, you know, the criminality that we are experiencing in our country needs quite a lot of technological capability. And in one of our areas in South Africa, we're using US technology, which is able to, in many ways, identify where shootings are happening and all that. And I'd like to talk about that because there is support that we can get from you as the United States to help us deal with all these acts of criminality. And that is what I believe partnership is all about.
I've got to say, okay, that was just so ridiculous. Oh, if it wasn't, we can't see the crime otherwise. We don't know what's going on. We need your drones. We need to buy some stuff from you, please, Donald. I know you like to talk about money and deals. So maybe if we talk to you, do you hear him, right? We need your help, Donald. We can't do it without you. I have to say, we know that if it had been any other so-called politician, this schmoozing, this disgusting, patronizing piece of shit would have, you know, well, it just would have been brushed under the carpet. But Donald doesn't let him get away with it, okay? He just lets him talk, and here we go.
And we are here as a partner so that we can help each other whenever there are challenges. So I'd like us to discuss it, and of course outside of the media, so that we sit down and have a really good discussion that will lead to good outcomes.
Away from the media.
Are there any other punitive measures that could be in place should you not be satisfied that South Africa is fixing some of the very bad things, in inverted commas, that you tweeted are happening?
Well, there are a lot of bad things happening in many countries, but this in particular has been very, very bad, And because of we're going to have the whole world watching in another short period of time because you have the G20, and that's a big deal. And it seems like I mean, I want you to look good. I don't want you to look bad.
Very good.
But we have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to come into our country because they feel they're going to be killed and their land is going to be confiscated. And you do have laws that were passed that gives you the right to confiscate land for no payment. You can take away land for no payment.
I want to clarify that because we have a constitution. Our constitution guarantees and protects the sanctity of tenure of land ownership. And that constitution protects all South Africans with regard to land ownership. However, we do say, because we've got to deal with the past, the government, and as your government also has the right to expropriate land for public use.
And you're doing that.
And we've never really gotten underway with that. And we are going to be doing so.
You're taking people's land away
we have not.
from them.
We have,
and those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed.
No. Did you see him shake his head when he said that? He shook his head, said, no. Ah. He's in denial. And I'm not talking about the one in Egypt either. Watch him. He shakes his head as soon as he's being executed. Watch.
we have not.
From them.
We have,
and those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed. And they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away, and in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land, and nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia in a smaller number. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country, and they're white farmers, and they feel that they're going to die in South Africa, and it's a bad thing. Yeah, please.
What can South Africa do? What concessions would you like to see them make to improve relations with the United States? Then I have one more for President Ramaphosa afterwards.
Well, you know, we just spoke about, I got them a very, very complex machine, 150 of them. I was asked by the president if it could help, and I did that.
All right.
And
I can tell you now, okay, that was a really juicy bit. It does go on. It goes on a bit, you know, it goes on longer. Other people talk, and, you know, I can't tell you. I'll copy it from where we got to so that you can watch it from here in your own time. And I'll put that in there because I need to move on. But it just was, I can't tell you how happy I was. It sickened me so much. I've watched so many YouTube videos about these poor white South Africans who've had lost everything, and they're being treated as garbage. So thank you God for Donald Trump. Good Lord in heaven above. He's not letting anywhere go. He's doing things that most people have no idea how many places he's trying to sort out. The so-called Democratic Republic of Congo. It is just I bless him, really. Now, I was going to talk about Elon. Elon had a discussion with, well, he was interviewed by this scumbag. I'll just play this little clip of him. Justice will come. It's just taking longer than I'd hoped.
I think the value of that pay package stands at about $100 billion. Are you saying you are relaxed about the value of your future pay package? Your decision to be committed to Tesla for the next 5 years, as long as you are still with us on this planet, is completely independent of pay?
No.
It's not independent. So pay is a relevant factor then to your commitment to Tesla?
A sufficient voting control such that I cannot be ousted by activist investors is what matters to me. And I've said this publicly many times. But let's not have this whole thing be a discussion of my alleged pay. It's not a money thing. It's a reasonable control thing over the future of the company, especially if we're building millions, potentially billions of humanoid robots. I can't be sitting there and one day get tossed out by, for political reasons, by activists. That would be unacceptable. That's all that matters. Now let's move on.
Okay, well, just one question.
Let's move on.
Well, one question before we move on to other companies, which is that I wonder if some of what has happened to Tesla in the last few months, did you take it personally?
Yes.
And did it make you regret any of, or think twice?
Did you hear the laughter in the background from the audience when he responded yes, he took it personally? Of course he'd take it bloody personally, right? It's the dumbest question ever. But again, just a typical flippin' disgusting scumbag media asking stupid scumbag questions. But I do like his... He's very sharp with his responses.
Any of, or think twice about your political endeavors?
Wait, sorry.
You regret any in the last few months. Did you take it personally?
Yes.
And did it make you regret any of, or think twice about your political endeavors?
Really?
Because it is...
I did what needed to be done. The violent antibody reaction, and I'm not someone who's ever committed violence, and yet massive violence was committed against my companies. Massive violence was threatened against me. Who are these people? Why would they do that? How wrong can they be? They're on the wrong side of history, and that's an evil thing to do. To go and damage some poor innocent person's car, to threaten to kill me. What's wrong with these people? I've not harmed anyone. So, something needs to be done about them. And a number of them are going to prison, and they deserve it. And more will.
You're referring to the attacks on Tesla showrooms, but I think...
Yeah. Firing bullets into showrooms and burning down cars is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Those people will go to prison, and the people that funded them and organized them will also go to prison. Don't worry.
But wouldn't you...
We're coming for you.
Wouldn't you...
It's not funny.
But wouldn't you acknowledge that some of the people who turned against Tesla in Europe were upset at your politics, and very few of them would have been violent in any way. They just objected to what they saw you say or do politically.
Well, it's certainly fine to object to political things, but it's not fine to resort to violence and hanging someone in effigy and death threats. That's obviously not okay. That's absurd. That is in no way justifiable at all, in any way, shape, or form. And some of the legacy media nonetheless have sought to justify it, which is unconscionable. Shame on them.
Let's talk about because I think...
Yeah, no, it's right. It sounds like a robot. He sounds like, this is the thing that's very disconcerting, of course, with the AI stuff, right? This is the whole purpose. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Unfortunately, we're being led down a road of robotics and AI, artificial stuff. We have fake, we have cartoon people, we have fake voices, we have roboticized, we have clips that are just chipped. The idea is to get everybody used to poor quality. I mean, the image. You'd think that these people, the CNBC and obviously Elon Musk, could make sure that they had 4K, right, visuals and top-notch sound. I mean, everything just seems like it's being done off the back of a truck, Mr. Starlink. I mean, just saying, it's just weird. It's just bad. It's intentionally done to make it, seem that way. But anyway, it was really what he was talking about. I did... He when he talks like that, it does appear he's genuine. He's genuinely distressed. Now, of course, I don't like anything to do with Tesla. I don't like the bloody cars. I don't like everything, the engineering behind it. I don't like the self-driving cars. It's all very horrible. I don't like the Neuralink. He sells it as trying to help the blind see and the deaf hear and the paralyzed walk. And of course, that's how they sell everything that they want to have people take up, get on board with. And then they turn around and they start using it on people who are fine. And they want to control, because right? I mean, we know the technology, if a blind person, which is a wonderful thing, we'll be able to see again and all that, you know, that is amazing. But we know that they're not doing it for that purpose. We know, well, I believe, and I'm pretty sure, that it's for nefarious future events in order to control us. It's obvious. You know, in 2020 onwards, you know, nobody should be any doubt that that is the intention. So, you know, I see Elon, I don't trust him at all. But then there's parts where I think, I don't know, maybe, you know, in his mind, because he's autistic, he sees the practicality of robotics, you know, having robots do things rather than having people do them. I mean, I don't know. It just, but it's all to do with the big agenda. And I don't like it. But, you know, that doesn't mean that it's everything that he says and does is bad. Okay? That's the thing. There's context in everything. And the problem is in the what have I got? The problem is everything we have in our world. It's all or nothing. You know, if you say you agree with somebody's opinion about a topic, then according to the other side, then you actually take on board everything that person says, and you agree with everything that they talk about, which of course is nonsense. There's certain topics that I agree with people on, and there's other topics that I disagree with that same person on. It used to be a normal thing. Now, of course, again, by design, it's all been done with, again, this sinister control factor and the confrontational aspect of our world. Anyway, I'm trying to get my computer to comply with my wishes, and it's choosing to be very disagreeable at the moment. Let me just get here. I'm trying to get my bookmarks. So what I wanted to do, of course, was show you this disconcerting issue. A few disconcerting things. Just one more thing to do with Elon, of course. Oh, God. Oh, God. I mean, hang on. Where is it? Oh, please tell me, Lord, that it's here. Come on now. Don't make a liar out of me. There's a lot of Elon stuff here. I can't believe how much stuff I have bookmarked. I mean, it does surprise me how many things I bookmark and just carry on with. Please tell me I've seen the bloody self-driving car. Amazon deployed over 750,000 robots, replaced over 100,000 humans. Look at that, right? 750,000 robots replace over 100,000 humans. These people lost their jobs. This is an old video, that one, of the people losing their jobs. Oh, please tell me. You know what? I'm going to kick myself in a minute. This is weird. I have the video of a guy. Oh, here it is. God, I can't believe it's that far down. So here we go. This gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know about you, but this does not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form.
Sometimes I forget that I have a Tesla that drives itself. And some other time, I forget they have electric outlets in my Tesla. And those days like today, when I'm really in a rush, I'm really in a hurry to go to the beach like every other day, you know, I miss stopping at my coffee bar because I'm late and I don't have time. So what am I gonna do? I just connect my espresso machine as a good Italian and I do my espresso while I'm driving, you know, like that's what you do. You press and you start your coffee. All right, coffee's ready. Thank you guys. I think I can even take a nap. Oh, coffee.
Thank you, meme man.
Let's bump the music. Every time I feel
the way that I think about you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Tesla. For makes my day better and better.
You know, and he's not going slowly either. I mean, he's in the first lane. His car's in the first lane, right? I mean, I say I've seen too many too many clips of people's cars going out of control. The Tesla won't go. You know, that actress, that woman whose car drove her into that building. I'm sure it was it going wrong. The car's going spontaneously on fire. I mean, you know, it's the sort of thing that really distresses me. I mean, this whole thing of promoting these toxic bio weapons, environmental disasters of these vehicles that are just one big... It's just disgusting. It really is. Everything about it. And that's what makes me feel unnerved. And another thing, of course, is the AI with Donald Trump. He's all in. And of course, I'm guilty of using AI now, which I didn't think I was going to do. But, you know, friends told me about it. And I got sucked into using the AI machine. Now, you know. But I'm talking about, obviously, artificial intelligence. I mean, it's pretty much an upgraded version of the Google A, right? I'm not going to do the money. Well, actually, these videos, by the way, are in from my broadcast this morning on Patriot Soapbox. I didn't show all of these videos, in fact, but it's for you to watch at your leisure, okay? Talked about the migrant hotels in this country, which are just prolific around the whole country, and the laws designed to come after us, those of us who question what these illegals are doing all around us. You know, what is the agenda? Nobody's asking actually what the agenda is. There's an awful lot of good YouTubers out there who go to these hotels and are exposing them. And in fact, there's a video on my channel that has migrant hotels, the truth. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I have to. I'm going to try and stick to my plan. Okay, my plan thing, and I have to talk about. I do. No, that's not the one. Hold on. Yes, Mr. Clueless. Oh my gosh, I am going to talk about it. Right, I'm just taking a look quickly at the chat. Yeah, Family Low said, Beach Bear said, these idiots think that forward movement requires looking to the left at 60 miles an hour. Family Low, it's important to remember that many people also said it would be the end of the world when home computers became a thing. Yeah, I remember that. Wayne Payne's got the old Freemasons symbol in there. Tina BRS2 says, Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law was driven into a lake and drowned by a Tesla that was taken over by a bad actor. There you go, that's right. Remote control. Well, and of course, the idea with the electric cars is that they will be able to control how far you can go. They can switch them off and on remotely. We know that, right? And nobody's talking about that. But anyway, back to, I have to tell you, right? I'm going to play. See, the problem is with the... So the next thing, let me just make sure. Is this what I'm going to talk about next? Why have I got that on there? I've included the full video with him again between Elon Musk and the CNBC dunce. That's a good video. I'm going to play these at the end. These are my end videos. Yeah, okay. Now, let's just get one thing straight, right? I don't like being deceived by anybody. I don't like being deceived by anybody. I was deceived. Totally deceived by this man, David Clues. He's a nasty piece of work, is all I can tell you. He's, and I do feel he's very much, I mean, if I say hate not hope and you sort of play with the words. Last night, was it last night or the night before? Anyway, I think it was last night. This came on. I'm going to play the first part of this for you. he had a professor, David Betts, okay? And David Betts wrote articles, academic articles on, and it was titled, that one of them was titled, "The Future of War is Civil War," okay? It was published in the Journal of Social Sciences. The summary is that Betts argued that Western societies are increasingly susceptible to internal conflicts due to factors like societal polarization and the erosion of public trust in institutions. Okay? He also, I haven't read these articles yet, and I will do before I completely do this video. Civil War Comes to the West, he wrote in the Journal of Military Strategy magazine, and the summary says that this article explores why civil war might become a dominant concern for Western military and strategic affairs, highlighting internal societal fractures and economic stagnation. And another one, Civil War Comes to the West, Part 2, Strategic Realities. The journal he wrote, it was published in the Journal for Military Strategy magazine, and the summary is basically a follow-up piece delving into the strategic implications of potential civil wars in Western countries, discussing how such conflicts might manifest and the role of critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. So he's apparently been on a podcast with Louise Perry on Maiden Mother Matriarch. He was also, it was an episode, I guess it was called The Coming British Civil War. And he apparently discussed his concerns regarding the UK's trajectory towards potential civil unrest, elaborating on themes from his writings. Okay, so I guess, David wanted to have him on the show, talk about his papers, talk about what his opinion as a professor. So here we go. I'm going to play it for you a little bit. And, Tina, I'd say 100% civil wars are definitely engineered by the powers that be. And, of course, I have my... Well, it's obviously Islam in this country it's engineered, it's geared to have the Islamic Jihad. It's not going to be a civil war. It's going to be a jihad against the English by Muslims, enabled by the government, and obviously willing participants of Muslims. I mean, they have to agree. So, oh yeah, here's the. Let me just. Here's an ad.
So there's this new super
Hold on.
powerful monocular.
So we get to listen to the first part of this a little bit, and we'll get rid of this ad in a moment. Oh, I like that.
Gentlemen, good evening. David Close broadcasting live here from the UNN studios.
We've
got a very special guest tonight. Very much looking forward to this. We've got David Betts on. David, for anyone that doesn't know you, David is a professor of war in the modern world. David, how are you this evening?
Very well, thank you, David.
Good. So, David, I first heard you your podcast with Charlie Bentley Astor, and I've seen that you've been doing the rounds on quite a lot of channels with your prediction of a coming civil war. Is there anything civil about a civil war?
Oh God, where did he go?
Well,
I mean, really? Are you really gonna say that? Oh God, that was really no, that was so bad. I can't believe he said that. That was so. Oh, please, David, that wasn't even funny. No.
Except for the fact that it being internal to one civil entity, to one sovereign entity. No, it's highly uncivil. It is the most disgusting, most egregious, most violent form of war there is.
So, David, can you tell us a bit then about your background and your career, and then we'll dig deeper into that.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm Professor of War in the Modern World in the War Studies Department at King's College London, which is a long-established...
So he's a Professor of War in the Modern World. That's his job.
...institution here in the UK with an international presence. It's function is, as the name describes, to study war in all its aspects, both historical, contemporary, from a range of disciplinary perspectives. I've been with the department for 25 years, went there just after completing my PhD. And in my time in the War Studies Department, I've worked primarily on irregular warfare, propaganda, information warfare, but especially insurgency and counterinsurgency. Most of my career, if we take those 25 years, I would say 20 of those were devoted almost exclusively to the study of internal conflict in foreign states.
So he's given a background, and I think it's very important. Okay, very important to get the background for who the person. Because I had no idea, never heard of him before. Just David Betts. So I don't know, right?
Into which Western countries, Britain, my own country, Britain, or other countries.
I don't know why he says his own country, Britain, because we know he's not British. But I don't know. He should have said my adopted country or something, but anyway.
Would involve themselves as a matter of policy for the purposes of making the world a safer place, broadly speaking. I'm not intending to comment on those things. Just suffice to say that I spent most of my career thinking about internal wars in foreign countries. More latterly, I've become to recognize that I go back, all of the conditions of internal conflict that we know from the literature and have observed in other countries of the world are present in our own countries now. And that situation has been building for some years now, but is coming pretty rapidly to a decisive head. So in effect, as far as my bona fides are concerned, I'm a fairly mainstream academic figure. I'm not a public figure. You mentioned that I've got a lot of attention recently. I haven't sought it. It just happened that I did a few podcasts and lots of people listened to them. The paper in question, the paper and the research on which that podcast was based is something I wrote over 3 years ago now, and it's an issue I've been tracking for some time. So, that's I think that the public, to an extent, has caught up with the ideas that I've been putting forward. But in essence, that's where I'm from.
Where were you from originally, David?
I'm Canadian originally. I was born in Canada many, many years ago now. I came to the UK after a period, after a short and uninteresting career in the Canadian military. I realized I was a better student than I was a soldier. So I came to the UK after some time traveling the world to do a PhD, subsequent to which I started at King's.
So, David, you've been studying foreign conflicts, internal foreign conflicts, and you see that the framework exists for that to play out within the UK. What has made you come to that conclusion?
It's a combination of factors, but the main one.
I'm going to speed it up a
bit.
bit.
If we're to pick out one above all, it is the collapse of the perception of legitimacy of the Western model of democratic governance. The most commonly expressed political viewpoint across most of the Western world now is neither left nor right, but is essentially the idea that voting doesn't matter because neither left nor right parties have much difference between them in terms of policy. That's a viewpoint which, as I said, it's the most common commonly polled political attitude in the Western world today. And people have arrived at that conclusion for perfectly obvious reasons, because it's essentially true. So there has been a collapse in the perception of the ability of normal politics to solve political problems. If you study insurgency and counterinsurgency, the most central idea in that subject area is the concept of legitimacy. Legitimacy is can be defined in various ways. One obvious way to define it is as the consent to be governed. So if you perceive a system to be legitimate, then you consent to be governed by that system, even when it arrives at decisions which are alien or disagreeable to you individually, because you assume the legitimacy and you assume the credibility of the system on account of your pre-political loyalty. That's another way. So that's a very common way of defining legitimacy. I tend to be a little more romantic in my definition of it. Essentially, it's a kind of societal magic. You know that you have a legitimate system because things work at relatively low cost, i.e. governance works at relatively low cost because people tend to do as they ought rather than what they are compelled to do as a matter of choice. So it's a kind of societal magic that makes the system run. And legitimacy has been collapsing through the West. Now, there are a number of causes which I suggest are at the root of that collapse of legitimacy, and we can go into that. But the starting point to an answer to your question is that the Western political system, as constructed over the last 30 years, has reached the end of its perception of its majority perception of legitimacy. People don't trust politicians to solve problems.
Obviously, it's because people have been double-crossed, because the politicians aren't doing what they said they're going to do. I mean, none of this is organic. None of what's happened to this country is a natural course of events. Having people openly coming across open borders, basically enabled by the government, who on the one hand has people having to show passports in an airport when they come on a plane, and on the other hand they're bringing people in by the thousands on dinghies illegally and housing them in hotels without giving them any checks and letting them and paying for their upkeep and giving them spending money and none of that would happen naturally. So you have obviously the politicians, and they fixed the voting system. So you can't actually vote them out, okay? So it's a fixed system. It's not natural. It's not organically run. It's not just, happens to have run out of its time because, it's a boring system. It's because it's been undermined and sabotaged, and the good people of the country don't realize that they've been had that badly. They still don't get it. It's still right in their faces, and because somebody is sitting a talking head at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock saying, even though it's pissing down with rain, they say the sun is shining and it's lovely and dry. The person will think, they'll deny that it's raining. I mean, you have a problem. Cognitive dissonance is huge. So this is a problem I have with this man's argument. However, there is going to be a conflict, but it's not going to be a civil war in the idea of a system breaking down naturally and having two opposing sides who happen to be of the same makeup, right? This is an intentional sabotage. So anyway, that's why I disagree with this David Betts theory. Okay, so far.
Fundamentally.
I would agree with that to an extent. If that is the case, then why in this country do you still have what appears to be overall buy-in to the system? We're not like Venezuela, where people, it's just lawlessness, or any other. We're not like Sudan. Most people still pay their taxes. Most people still go and vote. Most people still work. So is that not a bit of a stretch that the belief in the system has collapsed?
No, it's not a stretch. I didn't say it had collapsed. I said it was. I said it was diminishing.
German engineers
Oh,
created a way
bugger.
to multiply your garden hose pressure.
I
by
don't have
50
that ads
times
on
without
my
using a
regular.
single drop of power.
Hold
The
on.
secret, a
And what I didn't say, so it is diminishing, and of that there is no, essentially no argument. All of the proxy measures for legitimacy, which is one of the most centrally and consistently tested concepts in social science across the Western world, will tell you that it is decline, and on a general for many years. What I didn't say is that there's a tipping point. A tipping point is, so yes, we are in decline. The point is at the rate of decline and the trajectory of decline. So I happen to be talking today from York, which is a perfectly agreeable English city still. It's been sunny all day, and people have not been murdering each other in the street.
Oh.
And I'm not trying to suggest that we are Sudan or Somalia or
Wait.
Mogadishu or what have you. Saying we're on the trajectory to failed states. Now, I happen to be in one of the more agreeable, currently in one of the more agreeable parts of Britain, and the same.
I've unmuted Tina BR. I don't know what Tina said. I know she's in to defend the clueless. Clues, because that's the only reason why she's here, is to defend the defenseless. But I unmuted her. Tina, you're only ever sub-defending Mufti Clueless. Oh, the Mufti. Actually, I've got to find my image for that. Let me just carry on with David's, Betts' points.
Might be said of other countries, honestly. But there are a dozen other places in the country where your listeners will be living that will feel pretty badly governed. Places where the rubbish isn't picked up for months on end. Places where the police do not police. In fact, where the police, as is just continuing on with British cases, where the police do not police the most offensive, the most disagreeable, the most violent crimes against the most innocent people. So the fact of the matter is, empirically, that legitimacy is diminishing, and my supposition, my theory, if you want to get to that, we are to that point, is that we have also pushed past a tipping point. I didn't say that some people think that the political system is invidious and lacks legitimacy. I said that is the most common political attitude. Yes, we do have elections still. They don't matter. Most people now consider that they don't matter in terms of their effect on policy. Of course, in the news today, for your listeners in the UK, of course, we'll be talking about the recent Brexit or the recent UK concessions on future relations with the UK, which is widely interpreted as essentially a reversal of Brexit.
It was a reversal.
Amongst other, I mean, one could go through a very long list of issues where there is a sense of elite betrayal of people's of national interest, and people are correct to think that. I'll conclude in 30 seconds. So my point is that the key point is legitimacy. It is in decline. We've passed a tipping point at which the end point is violent civil conflict, and there are no plausible off ramps anymore. We can see that the reaction of government to the issues and feelings that I've described is not to change or even to attempt to co-opt, which is a typical response to this kind of threat, but in fact to double down and accelerate.
Obviously, this is something that's been said for quite a while. I think you are probably the first person I've seen in a respectable position, obviously a professor at King's College London, to say this, which I think, again, is why so many people have jumped on this. I still remain very skeptical, and I'll elaborate on that in more detail. But I want to go back to last summer when the riots erupted. Now, when they started, Starmer came out and with the mainstream media, with the likes of Hope Not Hate, said it was organised far right. It was the EDL. It was everything. Now, look, I'm not involved with the EDL, but I'm quite in tune with what goes on in the supposed far right. I said at the time that there was no one organising this. It was completely spontaneous. Yes, there was some local on the ground stuff, But Starmer was trying to say people were driving around the country and getting trains. And I said at the time, that was just all lies. People took to the streets in disgust at what happened in Southport. And there was just this outpouring of anger. And it was as a...
I'm going to tell you this now. Okay, Southport was a setup. All right, there was a lot of undercover. It was all the people who did the stuff with the hotels and did the violence. It was all a setup. It was staged. It was set up so that the government could come after people. All right, it was a bit like January 6th. So it wasn't natural. Do you know how many atrocities have been happened in this country that have been publicized? The people don't take to the streets in this country. They don't, not naturally. Some people may have done, but they weren't the ones who caused the mayhem. Those were all either undercover police or, you know, the Antifa, whatever, who were told to do it. I'm afraid, you know, it is true. It's true. So it was not natural.
Result of the stabbings, but it wasn't only that. It was decades of marginalization, decades of feeling like a second-class citizen. With your sort of hypothesis of the future, did you see that as one of the sort of maybe starting guns of what may happen in the future, the scenes we witnessed last summer?
It seemed possible.
Entity that
but I try to. People often ask, what is the flashpoint or the trigger? And I try not to speculate on that because it's inherently unpredictable. People.
I'm just going to show you. Okay, I'm going to show you, and people need to get their eyes. They need to wake up to this fabricated riots. Okay, I just want to show you this video quickly. Okay, to show you what I'm going to point it out. I'm going to point out the obvious. Now, regular people who are upset about a situation, they do not throw boulders at police vans. The only people who do this kind of stuff, that these people are all dressed in black bloc crap, because they're undercover and they're supposed to do it.
Last night, following a knife attack on Monday. Riots erupted on the streets of Southport last night following a knife attack on Monday, which left 3 girls dead and other young children in a critical condition. Rioters gathered around a mosque not far from the scene of the stabbings. Vehicles were set alight and projectiles thrown at riot police by people believed to be supporters of the English Defence League.
Believed. Remember? Believed to be support, but they don't necessarily, but they just believed. They thought that. Anybody who's doing it's all set up, it's all staged, just so the government can come after people and shut them up. Okay? For no, you know, it is. It's all for the narrative. And you have to watch the ones who are committing the open on camera. I'm not saying all the people were, okay, in the background they were probably watching just because they were interested in what was going on.
And concussion. Northwest Ambulance Service treated 39 police officers, with 27 of them taken to hospital. These violent scenes have been condemned by the government.
The community there are absolutely reeling from the horrific incident that took place 2 days ago, and to have that space that they need to process the trauma, to grieve, overshadowed by this violence and disorder, I think is completely unacceptable. And it's
all
right
staged.
That the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary have made clear that those responsible in many...
Look at that footage. Ooh, okay, there's a little fire right there. Let's get the camera really close. It looks dramatic. Let's just take a look at the reflect. Oh no, that's a puddle. In fact, in order to make the fire look more serious, the camera's focusing on a puddle reflecting the fake fire that was set by the fake rioter. Okay? I had to look at it twice to get that. Oh man! Oh, I'm so desperate.
Acceptable, and it's right that the Prime Minister and the Home.
Is it, or is it a little flame? I don't know. Maybe it is a little flame. Something, a piece of paper set on fire, and let's film it really close to make it look like a huge flame.
Secretary have made clear that those responsible,
who does
in many
that?
cases, from what we can tell, not from the town or even from Merseyside, should feel the full force of the law.
3 little girls, Elsie, Alice and Bibi, were killed in Monday's attack. This quiet town was already weighed down by grief, adding to that burden the cleanup from last night's chaos.
I was trying to hold my gate there closed because I've got 2 kids inside, so they were frightened there. So they were just climbing over the fences there. tried to rip off my wall. They tried to set the sun on fire, move my car on the driveway there just to make sure it's not going to get destroyed.
Nice Englishman, right?
All the beams were flying from here. It's just terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, right. So TWR says Operation Far Right, right? Operation Far Right. I've got to get that. Hate No Hope admitted the list for a lie. Yeah, it was all fabricated. It was just the inside job, just for the narrative, so that condemnation could be deflected away from the criminal, from the disgusting perpetrator of the crime, to make it to bounce off and blame those who may be upset about it, right? Go after them. It's just typical. It's just like a standard script.
People in mass are not really predictable, and individual people are not predictable. If you'd asked on the eve of the Arab Spring in 2011, was the Middle East likely to enter into a year-long period of extreme political turmoil? You might say, well, yeah, it seems a place that is riven by a high degree of tension, but it would be you'd have to be literally Nostradamus to have said that it would kick off when an Algerian fruit seller in a market so completely lost his inner sense of phlegmatism at the persistence of malgovernance that he poured petrol on himself and set himself on fire. You don't know. You can't. You can't say, or at any rate, I can't say.
And here I disagree with him there. It was not natural. It was not spontaneous. It was a completely set up thing. The Middle East, to somebody set themselves up on fire, to self-immolate in the Middle East isn't a strange thing in Islam. Look at the Indians. They set themselves on fire all the time. Nobody blinks an eye. And so this Arab Spring, of course, was the CIA, the whole thing of the remember the guy in, I've got it somewhere, where in 2001, he was told in the Pentagon that there were going to be 7 countries invaded in the Middle East, seven countries. And of course, the Arab Spring was born, right? So I think on this one, I agree with David Clue's take that I agree with David Clue's. It was not natural at all. So I disagree with David Betts on this point.
What I do, I just think that so we can't predict the specifics. What I thought was happening at the time, honestly, my reaction was very similar to your own. I thought the Prime Minister's statements around it being an organized far right uprising was ridiculous. Actually, it wasn't just ridiculous. I think the Prime Minister was calculated in what he was doing. Mm-hmm. He wasn't just speaking off the top of his head. I think he was
predicted,
articulating a point of view and formulating an approach to a situation as they perceived it. But the bottom line is, I don't know what the flashpoint might be.
Islam.
But I do think that there is, when
numbers.
You have tinder piled high, you will get some kind of spark. I do apologize for the groaning. It's not me. It's my dog sleeping.
That's all right. So wait, I mean, you've drawn parallels to the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and I've been doing a lot of research on that. And of course, the Troubles in Northern Ireland did start with marches that then developed into riots.
I'm going to tell you now, I think that the Northern Ireland thing was a big fat fake propaganda machine. Again, a operation by the government of this country to bring big bad IRA. I don't believe it was an actual group. It was probably undercover police, undercover government agents for an agenda to create this narrative. But anyway, so David goes on about the IRA. I don't know, I found that bit a bit boring. Let me just quickly go forward because it just gets, David's perfectly fine at this point. He's fine. And then he loses it, right? He's building up. Let me just skip forward a little bit because I found the Irish thing just really boring and wrong.
As being a quote unquote dirty war. That is to say a form of war which is low level but chronic and featuring things like assassination, particularly of noteworthy figures, usually judges, prominent lawyers, sometimes politicians, although they tend to be relatively highly guarded, police, prison officials, all the sorts of people whom in Northern Ireland for a period of years just simply had to get used to, for example, living with a 24-hour protection. A policeman sleeping in your kitchen because of the level of threat. So that's one threat, one track. It requires a relatively small fraction of the population to be inclined to violence to produce that sort of situation. By relative, I mean you can do this with 1 or 2% of the population being inclined to violence, and a broader percentage being inclined more or less to support or to rationalize that. The more so that will occur. The more significant technique, however, will be infrastructural attacks, and there are a number of reasons for that.
If you're struggling with any of these sluggish
stupid
thyroid
ads.
symptoms, like getting out of bed in the morning, thinning hair, brittle nails, dry skin, body
Hey,
aches,
California
and ice-cold
Condor.
extremities,
Here we
you're
go.
not
Hang on.
crazy,
Sorry.
and it's not.
The basic reason is that infrastructure attack is very easy. It has a very high payoff, and it's relatively easy to organize and to get. It is relatively more easy to get people to attack stuff than it is to attack people, but the effects are just as great or greater. So if we break that down again in order. The infrastructure is easy to attack because it's nationally distributed. It's effectively unguarded. The cities which depend on it most are located very far at the end of logistic and other infrastructural chains, which lie in regions which are hostile, increasingly hostile to the cities. So it's easy to attack, very hard to guard. And thirdly, as I said, whereas it's quite difficult to get from an insurgent perspective, it can be quite difficult to get normal people to do very abnormal things, right? To kill your neighbor, to drill out their kneecaps, or the like. It happens. It happened in Britain not so long ago for a period of about 30 years, and off and on since then. But it is quite difficult to animate people to do that. I would suggest plausibly considerably less difficult to get people to attack an electrical substation, or I don't want to go into the details because they're frankly pretty obvious, but also, I don't want to be seen to give a kind of tactical primer.
Well, I will get on to that actually, because that is a question I want to.
That was the trigger, okay? That was the trigger. And oh my days, I couldn't believe how this went. This just went, it was all going so quietly, smoothly, and quite kind of boring, to be honest with you. And then the professor said this, and David just got, oh my God, it was like I don't know what, he just got triggered by those comments.
To ask. Now, in relation to Northern Ireland, I mean, I
Oh
don't have the
God,
exact
Northern
numbers
Ireland.
on it, but say the Catholic population was what you would call, well, again, even amongst that, there was a big split between the SDLP, Sinn Féin. But say there was 600,000 Catholics. They say at any one point there was only 600 people who were active volunteers within, say, the IRA. Where are these people coming from that would engage in this kind of activities? Because, the Catholic community in Ireland did have a history and stories of 700 years of resistance to British rule. They had the stories of, the Black and Tans, the war. I mean, where is that core community? Where does it reside around? Because I think most of this is going to be in England. Where is that core community? Who is making it up?
Islam.
That is then going to produce the people who you think will then engage in these attacks.
David Betts mentioned the fact that, of course, the things start usually with sort of random assassinations of important people and perhaps attacks on substations, infrastructure, whatever. This is what he was talking about, is what is sort of gets going into the a civil war kicking off. That's how that's what people apparently do. Okay, that's what he just said. Observed that kind of thing.
You think the English people are not capable of revolt? The English people are.
Has there been a revolution? I mean, when was the last time there was a revolution?
You think the English people? No, the English have been quite well governed for, like historically, globally well governed for coming on 2 centuries, or actually possibly longer than that. And it's a history of decent governance, peace, and general order that propelled Britain to its great successes of the 19th and 20th century. But are you really suggesting that Britain, that England is well governed, that English people are being well served by their government? And
is it not a bit of a stretch to go from being angry at your bins not being emptied to then going blowing up a power station?
No, sorry, you're being facetious. Did it escape you that somewhere between by the low estimate, 250,000, and by the estimate of the Labour MP Sarah Champion, 1 million white working class British girls were subjected to
trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Here we go. This is it. I gotta say this. Okay, here we go. Oh, now it's gonna get juicy Lucy. Okay, listen to this. 250,000 white British girls got. And what's David gonna do?
Industrial rape of a really horrendous character. I mean, it's not. You're being a bit facetious if you just if you say, well, it's bins not collecting. That is in fact true. But my broader point is that if you consider the idea, well, let me take an example from the early 2000s. In the defense establishments of the world, there was an idea that became very prominent and still is occasionally talked of. It is sometimes referenced in extant British doctrine of the idea of feral city. The feral city is a metropolis of a certain size, which is chronically malgoverned, in which it is in a state of, if not outright bankruptcy, then looming bankruptcy, in which there are no-go areas for police, no-go areas.
Yeah, this is Islam. I mean, it's so obvious it's Islam, right? The multiculturalism, which the English people didn't ask for, didn't ask to be completely surrounded by people of a completely different culture, from Islam to India, right? The Indians don't need so many Indian people. They can be in India. They don't travel well, okay? So I'm going to just say, I disagree with both of these people. Both the Davids are both off the thing. Now, David Betts mentioned the mass raping and assaults of white girls, and that was and that still is, by Pakistani Muslim raping gangs. Okay, Pakistani Muslim. That's not English. That's not white English. So this is not a natural thing that's going on. And of course, it's been enabled by the British government because they want to create this chaos in order to come in and slam down on the people. I mean, it's all very obvious. So he's kind of started to touch on it, and then he kind of went somewhere else. And David is now, get ready for this one.
Areas, for the benefit of your listener, need to be defined essentially as areas of negotiated police control, not necessarily places where the police.
The no-go are for Islam.
As the police, if they bomb up, have the wherewithal to go where they wish. But clearly, they find it necessary to negotiate, very obviously, access to largish communities.
Muslims.
So there are.
It's mainly Muslims, okay? It's not English people who have no-go areas, all right? So this is a big elephant in the room that David Betts has missed out on. He's not identifying who it is, all right?
Range of measures of the idea of a feral city.
Feral.
And if you look at any number of existing British cities today, including Birmingham, Manchester,
Birmingham,
and frankly
Manchester,
London.
and London.
They are amber on the virality scale.
Virality.
They're not Mogadishu yet, but neither are they the green, completely non-Firo places, which they were actually in recent memory. And there is no sensible figure, I think, who is suggesting that the factors which are driving that incipient and increasing virality of the major urban centers is going to decline.
Islam.
But again, the point I was trying to get across to you was the specific things that led to the IRA taking up what they would call an armed struggle.
Who's he comparing that bloody IRA to? What the hell has the IRA got to do with what's going on in England? I mean, both of them are off the mark here. Just going to say, from my point of view, I disagree with both of them. But David then goes off the rails. David Clueless, all right? He's just going to go in a minute. I know this is taking longer because I didn't timestamp it. But, just get ready for David Clueless to defend Islam as he does.
Now, it looks to me that the people you're talking about is I would classify as the counter-jihad movement, because this is who I see have been all over this. The likes
sorry, that's no. You're reading into.
Wait. I'm saying they. Hang on. The counter-jihad, which is a David Clues thing. Counter-jihad. What the hell is a counter? What, those against the Islamic jihad? Is that what it is? Those who are not happy with Islam, completely taking over. And David has a problem with them? What's the deal? Does David have a problem with people who have a problem with Islam taking over and committing all kinds of crime and being allowed to do that? Because, what is it with David on this?
To the IRA taking up what they would call an armed struggle. Now, it looks to me that the people you're talking about is I would classify as the counter-jihad movement, because this is who I see have been all over this.
The likes that's no. You're reading into.
No, they have. I'm saying
things that I have not. Things that I have not said. I'm suggesting that what you have is an incipient movement, which is mass in its orientation, which is arising out of discontent and ideas which are not minority ideas, but are in fact rather popular ideas.
Yeah, but I'm saying the people who have basically been all over this are your Tommy Robinson type followers, your people who I class as part of the counter-jihad movement. These are people who extensively talk about civil war, who talk about a coming clash with Islam. They love to hear this. They believe that this is what's going to play out.
Wait, they love to hear it? Wait a minute. What is that about? That take? Do you know what? This is what makes me think, right? So just have this vision in your heads. I mean, I can't help myself. Well, let me just play a little bit more.
Over the next few years. Is that not fair to say that these are the people who have been most excited by this?
Excited?
What? No. I haven't. I'm not in contact with Tommy Robinson. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about large numbers of normal people, not EDL. Yeah, your neighbors, your correspondents, probably large numbers of your own listeners.
Well, but I, as I said, I am quite tapped in, and we are very skeptical about the agenda of a civil war. And I have to be honest, David, I do find it quite skeptical that you're able to freely talk about these things, as you pointed out earlier. You even by you saying these things, should we not be somewhat skeptical of that you're able, because in some ways you're implanting this idea into the minds of the populace that there is a coming civil war. And
where does he get? What do you mean? It doesn't take a genius to work out that the increase of the multicultural, of the non-English being given everything, being housed, being brought in, and making everything cause a shortage of GPs, of schools, of housing, because of people who have no reason to be here. That is what causes discontent, is the government is betraying the people who, right? So what is this? What is he on about? But anyway, this is what came to mind. Okay, this is when he got triggered by the counter-jihad movement. oh, they'd be so excited. So what? You don't think there's a problem with Islam, David? No, because you're clueless. What are you doing defending? Why are you trying to take it away from the problem that obviously is? Well, this is a good one by GIF of him. Right, here we go. There is no EDL. There isn't an EDL, Tina, you're right. There isn't. It's all in their imagination.
And whether you're not advocating for it, but are people not then going to prepare for that?
Prepare for what?
I'm not sure how to take that apart. Are you suggesting that I'm what?
Oh,
You're
bloody
struggling with any of these
ads.
Sluggish thyroid symptoms like getting out of bed in the morning, thinning hair, brittle.
That I'm. Are you saying I've got an agenda which I haven't revealed to you?
Well, I'm suggesting that you work for King's College London. You're involved intimately with the Foreign Policy Research Institute. You're a senior fellow there with your national security program. And from what I see, there looks to be a movement which isn't encouraging, but is laying the groundwork for some form of conflict.
Who?
And again,
Who?
If I was to roll the dice, who's behind that? It looks to be, I mean, I've looked at who's involved with the FPRI, and it looks to me like a very strong Zionist organization.
Oh. You know what? I should have a bottle of something. Let me think. What is it? Oh, what's that yummy sort of toffee drink that is a bit alcoholic but not too bad? It's deceptively good. What's it called? Because I don't drink it enough. Oh, not my Zionism. I should, every time he mentions that, the Z word, I should just take a shot, really. I should, shouldn't I? I mean, can you imagine that one evening? I should watch this, listen to a David Clues production, and find out how many times he says, oh, my Zionism, Zionism.
Okay, so I don't have a hidden agenda. I'm sitting here telling you what I think on the basis of the facts which I presented to you earlier. Behind me, I have stacks of books that I've read to try and understand the conflict in other countries. I have come to conclusions about the trajectory that this country is on the basis of my research and a clear-eyed estimation of where that leads. I'm not speaking on the behalf of anyone else than my own conscience and my own intellect. As far as the FPRI is concerned, let's say I'm not speaking for the FPRI, and I'm not ginning up a civil war, if that is your concern. I would ask you to imagine it something like this. Imagine you were speaking to a professor of geology, and I said that according to our existing theories of volcanology and our measurements of the subsurface of the UK, I'm sorry to tell you that I have discovered a volcano beneath southern England. I'm not making a volcano. I'm not asking for
you
a
got volcano. a bit angry when I suggested I didn't think the English were capable of revolting.
Of the condition. Sorry, I haven't finished speaking. I'm simply describing the existence of a situation which, according to our extant theories around internal conflict, lead to the situation that I've described. Then, on the basis of that and an observation of the society as it is, I have used my strategic logic to try and work through how that might look. That is all that I have said, and the only reason that I'm saying it is, and that is the only reason that I'm saying it. I mean, you've observed that that I am a reputable academic figure, and that seems, and perhaps it seems odd that other reputable academic figures are not saying the same thing. I cannot speak for why others are not observing it in the same, or not speaking of it in the same manner that I have. But certainly there are no lack of public figures who are speaking of this, and no lack of people who perceive these things and are right to do so. Sorry, I cut you off, but
no, that's all right. I'm just a bit.
I didn't hear,
did
you
get a
were,
bit
you were
agitated
asking
when
me.
I suggest that the English weren't going to rise up. That, you know, again, reading between the lines. If I'm just being blunt about it, it is almost like you want that to happen. And I think you and the likes of Douglas Murray, Peter Whittle, etc., are provoking a culture war, and it is specifically tied to a clash with Islam.
Wait a minute, what? He's a professor in internal conflict. Where did David get the fact that, did people think, do you think people are dumb? And what? Oh, because somebody said that there's going to be let's have a civil war. I mean, now, I agree with David in the sense that English people just don't have it in them right now. Okay, there isn't enough for the English to rise up. Okay, just not going to happen. What is going to trigger it, of course, is my opinion, is Islam. The Islamic, the bigger the numbers of Islam, and plus all the mayors, all the positioning of Islamic power, it's going to be an attack by the Islamic jihad, the Muslims, against the English, like what happened in Lebanon, in Israel, in every country that Islam has entered into as a minority and then gradually become bigger. They've created what is called a civil war. Syria, it's never a civil war. As a strictly speaking people, the War of the Roses, I suppose, would be the last time there was a so-called civil war. But, this is not a natural phenomenon. So, anyway.
And there are a lot of people behind it.
So David is, for some reason, he's very defensive about Islam. He doesn't like the idea, even though it's bloody well bleedingly obvious that there's a really bad, serious situation where the Muslims are being protected by the government, and there's a lot of Muslims in power, and the raping gangs have been getting away with it. The police have been protecting them. The laws that work against the English. It's a master plan by the 1%, the powers that be, master agenda in order to have their end goal of taking everything over. None of this is a naturally occurring thing. So in this instance, the two Davids are both wrong, in my opinion, in my learned opinion on the situation. So, but I don't understand David's defense of Islam and how he thinks they're all a bunch of innocent people who wouldn't say boo to a goose. I mean, hello?
Public figures who are speaking of this, and no lack of people who perceive these things and are right to do so. Sorry, I cut you off, but
no, that's all right. I'm just a bit.
I didn't hear,
get a bit agitated when I suggest that the English weren't going to rise up. That, again, reading between the lines. If I'm just being blunt about it, it is almost like you want that to happen. And I think you and the likes of Douglas Murray, Peter Whittle, etc., are provoking a culture war, and it is specifically tied to a clash with Islam. And there are a lot of people behind it, and they all seem to be funded by Zionist interests. That's just the pattern that I see emerging. Well, I may be wrong, as you say. You're come
wrong.
To this.
You're flat out. You're wrong. I can't speak for Peter Whittle or Douglas Murray because I'm not those persons. But I can tell you, speaking for myself, you're wrong.
If I was to do a show, or my friends or colleagues, and we were to talk about, attacking infrastructure, do you think we would get away with that?
He's not telling people to attack.
Why is it you're even allowed to discuss these things?
He's not telling people to attack infrastructure. Since when is he saying? When did David Betts tell people to attack infrastructure? He's saying that's what tends to happen. It's an observation. It's an educated sort of observation on what has happened in the past. He's not actually telling people to do it. You twit. What is that about?
Do you think? Do you think it's because you are an academic and there is a feeling that you're able to do that?
I would suspect if I think I probably do have the academic privilege of being able to describe the likely impact and the course of events in the specific area of human affairs in which I am expert.
But again, I just think it's a bit of a stretch for people to be disenchanted with their government to then go and start blowing up power stations. Do you not think that's a bit of a stretch?
No, I don't think that is a bit of a stretch. If I had thought it was a bit of a stretch, I would not have written the papers that I've done or spoken to you.
So why is there no more people in academia then coming out and pushing these papers? See, here's the thing as well. I've listened to all your interviews.
But I can't. Sorry, David. How can I speak for academia? I can speak for myself.
But I've listened to many of your podcasts you've done, and all of the people that have done them have all been really excited about it.
Excited.
It gets them excited. I don't get excited by it. I believe in there is the possibility of change at the ballot box. And I mean, whether I mean, I'm not saying you want this to happen. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not,
no, wait, no. You are actually. You're saying that people are excited about the thought of civil. Where does that come out? And since when did the ballot box work in this country? They were all fixed. It's who counts the ballots, David. Don't tell me you believe in elections and that the people who are chosen are the majority of who people have voted for. What the hell is going on with David? Where has he gone? What is he talking about here? This is very a puzzling stretch. He's taken it. Talk about a stretch. He's stretching it every which way. Where the hell is he going with this argument? I don't understand it.
I'm not suggesting that, but
well, you are.
I think there are a number of people in this country.
Hang on, let me just go back a little bit.
Let's just be blunt about it. Jewish Zionist interests, the likes of Tommy Robinson, the likes of Paul Golding, Britain First, the likes of the New Culture Forum, all of that crew. And they are all pushing for a war against Islam. And you look at what happened last summer during Southport. They protested outside a mosque. Why do you think that is? Why is this also specified on? I mean, I know you haven't, but do you not see that there is an attempt to provoke some form of war with Islam in this country and create a conflict?
Not by the people, not by people who are observing what's going on and what is happening, the news, and who's carrying out what crimes and who's being allowed to get away with it, David. They're not calling for a civil war. They're saying, if we don't stop it, then this is probably going to happen. That's very different from saying, come on, let's all go and fight. Very odd wording and phrasing and take on it all. It stinks, David. I don't know what the hell you're on. Clueless. And of course, David Betts is now... Look at David Betts. He's like, what is this man saying? And why? Who is he? And what is he saying? Because I don't get where he's coming from. He's like, what's he talking about? What's this? It's like, talk about a stretch. Hang on, let me just go back a little bit. So, because I keep on interrupting. I'm sorry. I'm jumping in and just, I can't help myself because, of course, I've heard this once. And I'm like, oh, my God, it sounds worse the second time round. And David Betts does not know where the hell David's going here.
New Culture Forum, all of that crew, and they are all pushing for a war against Islam. And you look at what happened last summer during Southport.
What?
They protested outside a mosque.
Oh, no.
Why do you think that is? Why is this also specified on? I mean, I know you...
The reason why, David, let me explain it to you. You don't need a professor. Okay, let's take a look at the situation. We have yet another jihadi Muslim accused of stabbing 3 girls to death. We have the untold numbers of raping gang victims of the Pakistani Muslim raping gangs. We have the call for jihad. We have people getting run over by, I don't know, Muslims. Oh, yes, and they seem to go to mosques to get their information. There seems to be a jihad against the West. Maybe that's why people may have a wee problem with those who follow an ideology called Islam. You think? I mean, what's the common denominator? I do... What? Oh, they're picking on the poor wee Muslims.
You haven't, but do you not see that there is an attempt to provoke some form of war with Islam in this country and create a conflict?
Who's provoking a bloody war? The Muslims. They're doing all the bloody things. And what, because people react? They're the problem? It's always the same way, isn't it? Where's his reasoning? And David's like pulling his ear going, what the hell is this man on about?
You say you've listened to what I said, but I'm not trying to provoke a civil war.
No.
And you keep... Well, you're normalizing you're normalizing the thought of one, though. You are a professor at King's College in London, and you're normalizing the idea of it. And I'm just asking how you can get away with that.
No, that is a mischaracterization. What I have described, very carefully, I might add, are the conditions understood within the extant literature the understanding within the extant literature around about the conditions for civil war, and indicated my belief that those conditions are present in the West, in Britain, and in multiple other countries. That's a simple empirical observation based upon a reading of extant theory.
I don't see that. As I say, I'm pretty tapped into.
Oh, for gosh sakes!
Uses zero energy, and it's making electric models obsolete. Just
You keep saying that you don't see it, but you keep asking what is my agenda in saying it. My agenda in saying, and there is no agenda in saying it. I have an understanding about the causes of civil wars, which is based on a reading of the extant literature on that subject. I have an assessment based on perfectly open, non-secret information around attitudes within British society and other societies, which suggest that in accordance with our theoretical understanding of civil wars, we are in an increasingly ideal state. That is all I have said, and there is no agenda beneath that. I'm not sure why you are persisting in following that.
Well, as I say, my observations are there are a lot of special interests who like to destabilize states and see states weakened.
True.
And see a fractured society. I mean, I don't disagree with much of your analysis that the UK, the legitimacy is gone from the government. I just find it a bit of a stretch that people are then going to go and start
You've said
assassinating people.
That it's a bit of a stretch.
It is. It is.
You know, what specifically do you feel is being stretched?
Well, that people are then going to go and take up arms and start assassinating people like that. That's quite a move. You know, that's quite a move from people being angry and, you know, going from like Tommy Robinson dancing to YMCA to start going out and like blowing judges up. You know, it's quite a big jump. You know, it's a bit of a move for a bit of a step forward from the way things currently are in this country. And again, people would have to get guns in and things like that. As I say, do you ever liaise directly with security services? Do you ever speak to people involved with MI5 or security services?
Please keep going with why you think that this is a stretch. You're speaking from a country that had a 30-year internal conflict that only concluded a few years ago.
Yeah, because again,
what in my assessment do you feel that I've gotten wrong? Do you think I've gotten wrong people's assessment of the validity of
I do because you
normal politics?
Yes, because the situation in Northern Ireland, as I said, you had 700 years as
Northern
they
Ireland.
resistance to British rule. You had numerous wars. You had the 1916 uprising. Then you had the
I should talk about Northern Ireland again.
The war then, and then you had the ongoing IRA campaign. Where are these people with guns? Do people even have military experience now? Who would even know how to make a bomb? I mean, what? And again.
Oh, jihadis would. Islamic jihadis, David. Oh, I don't know. Oh, what is he on about? He's not making any sense, David. He's not. Clueless.
part of really what I do is I would discourage people from even contemplating that, because here is the thing, David. In supposed right-wing circles, people listen to this stuff, then they'll go up and look up a book. The police will then say, you've just read a book about it, and they'll arrest people for, preparing acts of terrorism. I mean, as I say, I believe in peaceful civil disobedience. I also believe in change possible at the ballot box. I do not want to see a civil war in this country. I do not want to see people doing any of these things. And I mean, is it then that if this doesn't happen, your academic ego might get shattered?
What?
Don't worry about my academic ego, David. That's not what's at stake here. If that was at stake, then I wouldn't. Then I wouldn't have said a thing. I'd have written another book on castles or another historical war.
Yeah, but okay, in 5 years' time, if we sit here and there's no civil war, what are you going to say?
Nothing. What?
Ask me then.
Yeah.
What kind of questions?
Well, you've clearly laid out a strategy. The shows you've been on have been titled "The Coming." You have said that this is going to happen, the coming civil war.
He didn't say when. He didn't say he wants it. He just observing. It's an opinion. It's an observation of how things are, and judging by historical events, in his opinion, he sees that there's trouble ahead. It doesn't mean that he's actually wanting it or calling for it. Neither does anybody else. In fact, the so-called counter-jihadis, they're concerned about how things are going, and they would like it stopped. They don't want a civil war, and they don't want to clash with Islam. That's where you've got it completely wrong, David Clueless. That's why I call you David Clueless, because you can't read things very well. In certain things, some things you can, David Clueless. But on this one, you've missed it by a mile. And what you're saying to this professor, it's just unhinged, David Clueless. All right, yeah. Do you like the gif I made of Clueless, David? David Clues, aka David Clueless of UNN, Unity News Network. Here's the man who calls death to Israel, death to America, with great passion and enthusiasm. Mr. Jihadi Dave, is that not calling for violence? So I am surprised that he hasn't had a knock on the door, if that's what he talks about. And yet he sits there in judgment of a professor who's observed historical events and has just said, well, looks like if things go the way they are, then it looks like, trouble's ahead. But he's not calling for it, you pillock. Talk about a stretch. That's a great stretch. David, Mr. Death to Israel, Death to America.
If I was to be really brutal about it, that sounds to me like pre-programming. As I say, this, if I was to really throw it out there, it sounds to me like you have been put up to this.
Get ready.
You're working with security services to implant this idea in people's head.
What?
Either you're playing that role knowledgeably or you're playing it unwittingly.
What?
And then when it happens, it gives the British government the excuse to bring in as many draconian laws as they like. They'll jail people, they'll imprison them, they'll build prison camps. As I said, my take on it is, I just wouldn't give the British government the time of day. I don't think they're even worse. I don't think they're even worth trying to get violent with. And as I say, I would be doing everything I can to dissuade that block of people from even considering this.
Yes, we do agree.
I'm not sure you want me to say, except that...
What? What? Clueless? What?
I'm not working for the security services.
He's just written a flipping paper or two about observations, David. He's not calling for an uprising. I'm sorry, you've got the wrong interviewee. Do you not realise he's a professor at King's College? I mean, hello. Death to America, death to Israel, David Clues.
And I'm not calling for a civil war. I've said that a civil war is highly likely. I happen to feel that we have passed the tipping point. If one understands what a tipping point means, that involves a degree of inevitability. My personal opinion, my assessment on the basis of the evidence is that we are probably past the tipping point.
That's it.
As a matter of calculation, however, I have also presented what are the statistics around this that are not my own invention. They are rather the idea which is ideas which are present within the literature around what is the probability of violent internal conflict where the conditions are present. The literature says that's about 4% per year.
I don't agree.
You can simply extrapolate statistically from 4% over a period of
Bailey's.
Say, 5.
Bailey's, that's it. Bailey's is the one. I've got to get it ready. I've got to get some Bailey's. I mean, to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't be that much gone in this conversation because he hasn't really mentioned Zionism enough. I'd feel a little bit tiddly, but he hasn't finished yet, I don't think. I think he's got a couple more Zionisms in him. Oh, hi, the new laddie.
5 or 10 years in a connected environment where if it kicks off in one place, it is likely to spread to others, that you come to a very high likelihood, according to the existing literature, that civil war is in the coming. Hence the civil war, the thesis that civil war comes to the West. As far as your speculations around my agenda, which you have presented several times now, they are misguided. They're false. Stop doing them. It's annoying. I've said what I've said.
This is the first time you've actually been asked any tough questions. This is the first time you've been asked any tough questions. Everyone else that's had you on your show, they've literally been like orgasmic at it. Like, are you not a bit skeptical on that? That all these people who have had you on, New Culture Forum, Bentley Astor, again, as I say, I don't trust any of these people.
Yeah, but
right?
no one else has asked whether. David,
excites them.
And let me speak. No one else has asked whether I'm speaking on behalf of Zionism or whether I'm ginning up a civil war on behalf of the security services. So, for the record, neither of those is the case. You've asked the question in various ways 3 or 4 times. That is the answer.
BBC.
Do you want to talk about something else?
No, I mean,
no.
I'm happy with that. As I said, maybe if I was to see anything, my anger is more at these other groups of people. Because as I said, David, I mean, you said yourself, you stay in York. I'm sure you've got a nice lifestyle. There's a lot of people out there who the thought of being a rebel, the thought of doing these things might be appealing to them. And then these will be the people that end up going to prison. These will be the people that end up not seeing their wives or their children. Because I know people who are in prison. I know people from the riots last summer who went out, thought they were a big man, and now they're doing 8 years in prison. Like, as I say, I find it, I don't like the culture of people who will, they will normalize the notion of this. People who are academics, intellectuals, as I say, the likes of Whittle, the likes of Douglas Murray. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones that are actually going to be out there in the trenches. And I think it's easy to say that there is the potential for conflict coming. But my analysis of it, unlike these other people, is that we, as responsible people, should do everything to stop anybody even entertaining the notion of being dumb enough to do something like that.
Says the man who says death to America and death to Israel and talks about the the need for procreation because we're outnumbered. Mr. David Clues, he doesn't seem to hear his own content when he talks about what's going on. I mean, I haven't heard anything David Bett say that would suggest that he has in any way and has a desire for there to be a civil war to break out. However, on the other hand, I could probably, I mean, I don't listen to him enough now, David Clues. I haven't listened to him for ages, but I seem to recall in the dark recesses of my mind the times that David refers to race and white and, very strongly suggesting that a conflict is coming. So, I mean, pot calling kettle black, is it that he's reflecting on himself or what? He's got the wrong get. He's got, you know what? The thing is that nobody that David Clueless wants to challenge has any interest in speaking to him because he's agenda driven. He's like the BBC on steroids, just with a much smaller budget and a much smaller studio, and he's just not as intelligent, I'm afraid. He's got a wee, he's a wee bit too emotional for his life, you know what I mean? Lad, yes, here we go.
Because you mentioned the IRA. The IRA were defeated. The IRA were defeated. There is no united Ireland. And a lot of people died for nothing. And as I say, I think that there'll be a lot of people if this does.
Oh, for freaking hell. You know, I'm so glad I pay for Rumble, okay? I'm so glad I do, because I hate ads. But the thing is, when I have the Rumble thing on my website, it plays the bloody ads.
And it's making electric
How obnoxious.
Just
does happen, who lose their life. And I don't see what the point is in doing that. And I hope that
wait, I missed the you know, David is just so much off his. He's gone off somewhere. He just wishes that he had Peter Murray. Is it Peter Murray? Whatever. Oh, he did talk about wet dreams with Tommy Robinson. Oh my God, can you imagine? I wish I could see Tommy Robinson take this doofus on.
They will normalise the notion of this. People who are academics, intellectuals, as I say, the likes of Whittle, the likes of Douglas Murray. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones that are actually going to be out there in the trenches.
Gotcha.
And I think it's easy to say that there is a potential for conflict coming. But my analysis of it, unlike these other people, is that we, as responsible people, should do everything to stop anybody even entertaining the notion of being dumb enough to do something like that. Because you mentioned the IRA. The IRA were defeated. The IRA were defeated. There is no united Ireland. And a lot of people died for nothing. And as I say, I think that there'll be a lot of people, if this does happen, who lose their life. And I don't see what the point is in doing that. And I hope that as I said, there's a lot of people who have taken what you've said and they have romanticized it, because there's nothing romantic about a conflict where you're attacking your own people.
And
was there a question there?
Oh my God, that was brilliant. Oh, that was lovely. David just had a wee rant all to himself. And David Clueless had a wee. I've got my. Thank you for that suggestion, Two Guns Pete. I found it on Rumble, so there won't be any more ads, and I've got a bigger screen. So this was funny. So here he is on his soapbox. Mr. David Clueless ranting away in his deranged mind. Here we go. Let me get this again. Here he is. He's getting ready. I'm going to play this little clip again because the ad put me off. So he's going to start his rant again. All right, this little bit here. Look at his face. Look at his face. They're pictures.
I don't see what the point is in doing
Hang on.
that. And I hope that as I said, there's a lot of people who have taken what you've said.
Who?
They have
Who?
romanticized it.
A
Because
man-
there's nothing romantic about a conflict where you're attacking your own people.
Who said there was? And was there a question?
A question there?
Do you think there's
You're
anything
talking
romantic?
about you're talking about your issues with other people.
David Clues.
Well, yeah,
Murray
and
with
let me ask you then, do you not feel a notion of responsibility that you may be normalizing this idea? That you may be, that people may listen to what you say and then think it's acceptable?
No.
Sorry.
What?
I have said
I think it's
very
acceptable.
carefully what the literature says, what the theory is, from the perspective of a person who spent, as I said, 25 years trying to understand how societies peel themselves apart.
Yeah, observing.
We are in a situation where that is our future.
His opinion.
But
I'm not
you're
calling for
saying that. How can you say that is our future? Or what? You missed it, Meg. Have you got a crystal ball? Surely the future is what we make it, what we want it to be.
I just explained 4 minutes ago what the theory says.
It's
But
a
you're
theory.
adamant that theory is going to play out.
No.
So,
Sorry,
as I
yes,
say,
I said that
that's one of two things.
Extant theory says that it is
Likely.
on the basis of
Probability.
History.
History.
A calculation done on other conflicts says it's 4% annually, where the likelihood is 4% per year where the conditions are present. If you accept the premise of my argument that the conditions are present, then the chances are 4% per year. Then, if you accept that we live in a connected world where there are at least 15 other European states where those conditions, same conditions are present, and one of the main qualities of civil wars is their tendency to propagate, then you should do a calculation that says 4% per year times 15 cases with a certain percentage likelihood of spreading. Those come out to be rather high.
I mean, I have to say, I disagree with this David Betts on that. You know, the old calculations and put it into calculator and work out the likelihood of it happening, okay? There's been a lot of messing around with the recipe by the powers that be because they want trouble. It's not a natural occurrence, okay? So they're both, I would suggest, inaccurate in my opinion. And David's way to Zionism, just completely deranged syndrome, cannot see the wood for the trees and just can't rationalize anything. He's just got completely the wrong guest on and the wrong argument with the wrong guest. He's trying to desperately fit the circle into the square as hard as he can, and as many times as he's trying, it's failing miserably, and the guy's just making you look like a tit, David. You're doing a fine job, can I just say, Mr. Clueless.
Probability of occurring.
This sounds a bit like Neil Ferguson, you know, of Imperial College, who gave all those numbers out for COVID deaths. You know, look how that ended up playing out. You know, I'm just sorry if I have a healthy skepticism of academia, and you know, it sounds a bit like trust the science.
That's true. That's true.
It sounds a bit like what?
That's true.
Trust the science.
Trust the science.
The projections and the models. You know,
Yeah,
Neil
no, I
Ferguson
agree with
gave
him
all
on
these
that one.
models about
Yeah.
how many people are going to die of COVID. Look how that played out.
David's got a good point there, I have to say. I'll give him that one.
Neil Ferguson, I'm not.
I'm not Neil Ferguson. You're talking about somebody else, David. It's not me. So take it out with him. I'm somebody else. Hello. David Betts is my name. And a professor I am. I'm not in your in your wee box. As much as you're trying to squeeze me in. It's not going to work.
Defending Ferguson's point, I'm not an expert on COVID.
Well, you're an expert
I am
on
expert.
conflict,
I am
and you're
expert on
adamant that it's going to
internal
happen.
conflict. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not
wanting it.
You've said that I'm adamant. I think it's very likely.
Okay.
Given the conditions that I've described and our understanding.
Do you acknowledge, though, that there are vested interests who would benefit from this
Yes.
happening in this country, and it's not the British people?
No. Yes.
British
security services would benefit.
Who do you mean
military
by
industrial,
vested? Who do
military
you mean by
industrial
vested?
complex.
The
There's a lot of
1%.
money to be made if there's a civil war.
What's that got to do?
CCTV camera makers.
What?
You know, there's a lot of people might benefit from it.
What are you saying?
There's the. I'm
Clutch.
I can't really speculate on
straws. What?
On that. You know, certainly. You know, I do not represent a vested interest. I've said what I've said for the reasons that I've said it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to sell CCTV cameras, or am I trying to?
David's trying to put this man into a space that's not fitting. Okay, he's not calling for war. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like I have a skepticism of professors, of my scientists, of statistics. So I would disagree with him on those things. I wouldn't go out to another argument with somebody else who's got a different opinion and has a different sort of outlook on things and accuse them of thinking the way they are, which is what he's doing. He's just arguing with the wrong individual who's not spouting for civil war. He's just saying, but by the probability, there's looks like it's not looking good. That's it. He's not promoting it. He's not telling people to go do it, you doofus.
Represent anyone except my own views.
His views.
Which I've arrived at for the reasons that I've said.
Right.
But but again, though, how have you arrived at those views? As I said, what
I just explained to you how I arrived at those views. I don't know why this is not getting through.
But I don't understand how people who could 1 minute get a flight to Alicante for a weekend or go and watch the football are going to start blowing up power stations. I just don't see how that happens. I don't see where that leap comes from. Unless
that's true.
These people are kind of nudged into doing it.
Nudged by whom? By a professor?
Unless the conditions are normalized for them to go and do it.
Oh my God, no! You didn't really say that.
Literally every civil war in history has involved normal people doing abnormal things. There are conditions, both directed and organically political to those societies, that result in that situation. Everybody says before the downfall, I don't see it.
No, that's yeah.
Maybe you'll be right. I'm not convinced. As I say, I think that. As I say, my analysis of the situation, my theory, so to speak, is that there are a number of vested interests who do push this. And I'm not saying you're part of it.
But you are.
Vested interests, okay?
Well, I think you are actually, Dave. You definitely are accusing him of it. You're accusing him of being connected to those people, David. You just finished. You've just been doing it. You've been berating the man. So don't be disingenuous and just suddenly start saying, I'm not, but I am, because that's what you are.
Just stop it with the vested interest.
Vested interests don't exist.
Oh God.
No. If you want to talk about the vested interest, this, talk to someone who has a vested interest.
Boom. Hello, take that one, David.
You're telling me you don't, so I'll have to believe you.
Which means you don't believe him, which means there was no point in you saying that because you're telling him you don't. You're so rude, David. You're so condescending. You're so disrespectful. That is just so wrong. And that's what's annoying about David Clues, because he doesn't take anything on board. He thinks he's right, and he just keeps doubling down. And that's why nobody wants to go on and talk to him, because he can't see things other than what his own myopic vision tells him. No matter what the person says, he won't accept it. And this guy, he deserves an award. He really does, for keeping his cool. I mean, to be honest with you, he's befuddled. He can't understand who the hell this guy, who seems to be of a relatively normal intelligence, is sitting on the other side of the camera. What the hell he's on about? I guess he doesn't want to diagnose him with some psychosis on camera. So he's just quietly trying to figure out when the hell this is going to be finished. Because it's not going anywhere good, let me tell you.
And I'm glad you've come on the show tonight and you've argued your perspective. But as I say, it's maybe a number of things. You're an unwitting pawn, perhaps, in these people's game. Maybe you've not realised that these people will use you. They will use your work. They will use your standing in King's College.
These people
to push their agenda.
Just to be clear, I mean, I who are these people?
Yeah,
these people I would term as the counter-jihad movement.
Oh no!
The likes of
Tommy
Peter
Robinson,
Whittle, New Culture Forum, the likes of Douglas Murray, and the likes of Tommy Robinson.
Oh, he went there. Oh, he did. He did. He went there. He couldn't help it. He has to bring him up again. Oh,
people who push the narrative that there is a coming civil war with Islam. And these people are by and large funded and paid for by Jewish Zionist interests because they
damn, I got to get that shot glass ready.
Be at war with Islam so that you then support the state of Israel. Therefore, they're involved in what I call a nefarious plot that floods the West with Islamic immigration and at the same time causes the wars that starts this immigration. So my argument is you unwittingly may have become a pawn in these people's game. They will use your research, they will use your name to then embed in the mind and culture of people the notion of a coming civil war and a civil war with Islam.
What? Oh, hey, we're talking about stretching here. I mean, has anybody got a stretch? I haven't got a stretch strong enough to take that stretch. He's really stretching it. I mean, he's accused David Betts of stretching things, but I got to tell you, that was a real, that was a doozy. That was a big one. Oh, he's losing badly and he can't cope. So now he's not making any sense whatsoever. He's just throwing everything at it and hope something will stick. Going, oh, please bite at something. Give me something. Please, David Betts, don't be so calm and don't sit there looking at me like that. Please bite. Please. Sorry, David. David Cluser's not going to work tonight. You've got the wrong victim.
Okay. Thanks for the warning.
Had you considered that before? Have you not found it suspicious that all these people have you on your show and they love it?
What? They love it.
They've enjoyed it. They've never. I mean, I've never heard one of them ask you a single tough question. Do you not think that's a bit odd?
About what? What?
Your definition of tough question is
not tough. It's like
kind of idiosyncratic.
Well, they've all just agreed with you and said, "You're right, Professor Betts. There's going to be a civil war."
The first person who interviewed, so the first person who interviewed me, in fact, was Louise Perry on Maiden Mother Matriarch.
She's another one I don't trust.
No.
She's totally involved with that whole counter jihad crew as
well. No.
All these people are funded by Israeli interests. All of them.
Oh, can I count Israel as Zion? Hey. Can I count Israel as Zionism? Can I do that? Does that count? It's pretty much the same thing, isn't it? Does that count for a shot? I don't know why, because I don't have the, was it the Tia Maria? Is that what you said it was, Tina?
And people, you can call me an anti-Semite or a conspiracy theorist, but that's what they do. They are experts at destabilization. They destabilize Syria, they destabilize Lebanon, and they want to destabilize Europe as well.
No.
And that's their end game. And they would be perfectly happy to see a civil war in Europe between, people in their government and Islam as well.
What?
It's just maybe I'm just wrong, and that's all these people.
You're wrong.
You mentioned to me, all of them, they're all part of that.
But you are.
You're so wrong, David. Oh, clueless.
You laugh it off, but you are wrong.
You're wrong.
In the stuff you're saying is
frankly unhinged. Psychotic.
Anyway.
Come on, David, don't be so nice. Psychotic, fixated, unhinged, completely nonsensical, and bizarre. Generally. You need to take a break, David. Clueless. Because he's just so pissed off at not getting somebody he can. I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know. David's lost.
I'm none of those people. I am myself. I've explained to an extent. I have explained my thinking. I've been clear about what my agenda is and where I'm from.
Bailey's, not Tia Maria.
Have you never
Bailey's.
stopped to look at all these organizations, all these different groups
no,
out there,
no,
and
David,
not thought, who funds these people? Who are they? I look at all of them, and they're all linked to Tel Aviv. All of them, every single one of them. Do you not think that's a bit odd?
You're saying that I'm linked to
Tel
Aviv?
I'm
so
not.
I've written a paper.
Yes, you are, David.
I'm
several.
actually not. I'm saying
No.
my
given a
analysis
bunch
of it is that
interviews. I'm
you
spoken
have
to you because I'm taking direction from Tel Aviv.
no. My analysis is I think you have unwittingly been drawn into these people's game. That's my kind of analysis of it.
What an idiot.
I think you've been drawn into these people's game, and you maybe weren't aware of how exactly they operate.
Please stop, David. Shut up. Seriously.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the warning.
And I would be exceptionally skeptical of these people. And do you think that is a conspiracy to say that the Zionist interests influence politics around the Western world, and they play a disproportionate outsized role in influencing politics?
I don't know why you're asking me about Zionism, and you asked me to
Does
come
that
on
count?
to talk about civil war.
Well,
So I don't agree with you. I
two are
don't agree with you
intrinsically linked.
on the matter. I've
The two are linked.
In your mind, David.
Why do you think we've had mass immigration to the West? What do you think the reasons behind it are?
Tell me.
Tell me.
Well, I'm asking you. Do you
Tell me.
do you not think the underpinning
I'm
aspect
sorry.
of it is?
I didn't write a paper on that issue. I have
Yeah,
written
but
a paper
it's exactly linked because the linchpin of the society we live in, mass immigration.
David, stop and let me finish what I was saying. Is that okay? I've written a paper in which I said that multiculturalism is at the heart of the fracture. Multiculturalism and identity politics are at the heart of the fracturing of the perception of legitimacy and and of pre-political loyalty, which I've talked about at length.
Where does the agenda of multiculturalism come from?
I haven't written about where that came from. You have some ideas about that. Do educate me.
Well, fundamentally, the linchpin of multiculturalism, if I was to simplify it, is that in order to stop a Hitler-style situation, Jewish Zionist interests since the Second World War have pushed an agenda of multiculturalism and a multiracial society, because fundamentally Jewish Zionist interests are no longer the other in a society. They can point to many other different groups. And if you look at many of the people, like Bret Stephens, the commentator in America, famously said that, any multiculturalism has benefited
that's
Jews.
True.
And
that's true.
Ever since the Second World War, we've been guilt-tripped with what happened then to have open borders.
There's more to it than it's
and
over.
At the same time,
the thing is, David's oversimplifying everything. That's the problem with David. Okay, he's myopic in his outlook. He cannot see a multifaceted reasons for why we're in the mess that we're in. He cannot see the difference between the peoples as to who's coming. I mean, nobody would, well, people probably have a problem with the numbers coming in, but anyway, it's multifaceted. It's not that simple. He's oversimplifying, and he's got the wrong person on as a guest. The professor has nothing to do with talking about that topic in that manner. And that's the problem with David. It's just weird. He's that desperate. He got this guy on and then tried to accuse him of things that, he's not a part of. It's ridiculous. He's embarrassed himself, really. He really has. It's a disgrace. David Clueless is just completely clueless. It really is. He's proven himself in this embarrassing performance, disrespectful, narcissistic, and completely condescending, and just generally insulting.
You're then told that you have to support the actions of Israel in the Middle East to destabilize other nations, and then we have to accept all the refugees.
It was America that was behind all of this
shit. Is that a
shit.
theory you've heard before?
I don't know what I've heard this theory. Yes,
the likes of Lord Alf Dubs, people like that push this agenda.
I don't know who that is.
Well, he is the Lord again. Came here in the Kinder transport.
Bloody Kinder!
Trying to say is, I see us, and again, putting it bluntly, we're caught in this kosher sandwich where you'll have right-wing extreme Israel, Likud pushing wars in the Middle East, pushing destabilization.
Wait a minute. Right-wing extreme who? Who's right-wing extreme? Israel? Oh, that's interesting. Likud. I'm not saying the Kalogi plan, it is a thing, right? There is a Jewish background to the whole thing of the darkness, but I'm saying it's oversimplifying everything. There's more to it than what David's saying. And people have, different reasons for why they're saying things, of observing what's going on in the world.
And then in Europe, you'll have, the more left-wing side pushing multiculturalism, open borders, and as I say, post-Holocaust guilt for what happened in Europe. And as I say, I think people like that have had you on their show, Louise Perry, Bentley Astor, New Culture Forum, and again, in National Conservatism, Yoram Hazony, these people are all intrinsically linked to that agenda. And again, I get a lot of stick for it, and I'm called a lot of things.
Louise Perry is pushing multiculturalism. Sorry, I mean, this is a crazy conversation because it has literally nothing to do with what I've written.
Nothing to do at all.
But my argument is, why
have you invited me on to hear your argument?
Because I'm interested to know why you're saying this. I want to know why you are allowed to talk and implant the notion and idea of a civil war.
What?
How you are able to get away with that.
He's a professor.
Because if I talked about that, I would be arrested.
He's a professor and he talks about wars and internal conflicts. So maybe that's why he talks about the topic, David. The clue is in his title of his job. That might be why he's talking about it. He's not some revolutionary whatever, Zionist, pro-Zionist, trying to get the wee English people to rise up because their bins aren't being emptied and kill some judges. I mean, it's just so weird. Look, and David Betts is like, oh my days. Oh my days, what is wrong with this man, and why did I agree to come on and talk to him? But I am not going until he just exhausts himself with his stupidity.
And implant the notion and idea of a civil war. How you are able to get away with that.
It's so late. Look at my show.
Because if I talked about that, I would be arrested and I would be put in prison by counter-terror police. So why are you allowed to get away with it?
Who are you, David? In the grand scheme of things,
I don't. I can only say that I've arrived at the ideas I have written about and explained as an academic in an academic institution, and written them up in a formal and scholarly way. Why?
You've not just done that. Though. You've told me that this is going to happen. You've said this is going to happen, and when I pushed you on there not being a revolution, you got a bit angry, and you said to me, "Are you saying that English people don't have what it takes?" That sounded to me like you would be annoyed if it didn't happen.
Oh, what?
So either you're annoyed because it's part of your agenda, or you'd be annoyed because academically your theory then doesn't happen.
You cannot base your question on what you think that it sounded like I was thinking. You can base your question on what I actually said.
Yeah.
So rewind and re-ask your question.
David.
Oh, I've said it the way I've said it.
What?
Then what is it? What is your question? Please
well, again, my analysis of it.
Wait a minute. Sorry, Tina. What the hell are you talking about? That is true. We would be arrested. What exactly did the professor say in his paper where he called for people to rise up and do things? Where is he instructed it? okay? Because nothing that this professor has said is rocket science. He's just putting he's going by history. He's not calling for a revolution. He's suggesting that it's all being built up for that to happen. So I don't understand this sort of, oh, I can't say it. If I could say it, then I'd be arrested. No. Say it. But the problem is with David Clueless is he doesn't listen to himself, and he doesn't actually listen. I'm very surprised why he hasn't a knock on the door. Okay? David talks about revolution. He talks about the whole idea of a conflict, and he says death to America, death to Israel. I mean, hello. Why hasn't David had a knock on the door? I don't agree with him having a knock on the door, but David's a bit concerned about it. I don't particularly like having a knock on the door. I don't answer the door if I have a knock on the door, because actually a couple of times when I have answered the door, I've been taken down and arrested by the police because I told somebody to have a gay day, and I told an MP she was a traitor. That's the things I'm more concerned about, not the Zionist agenda for the revolution of the uprising of the country. Okay. Anyway, it's almost finished.
Is I wasn't sure.
What was your question?
No, my question is, why are you able to talk about these things, to go publicly, to talk about how energy infrastructure is unguarded? I mean,
because academics are supposed to engage with controversial ideas.
But
that is literally written into the charter of the university.
But that's terrorism. That's terrorism. That's terrorism, saying that the energy infrastructure isn't properly guarded.
What?
That could be seen as inciting terrorism.
Where? How? David, what the are you talking about? How?
Do you not acknowledge it could be seen as that?
No.
No, I don't.
No, I don't either. Does anybody out there see it?
Perhaps a two-tier. I mean, if it's okay, again, let me just point this out. If I was to come on my show and say, hi, everyone, I think there's going to be a civil war. Do you know that the energy infrastructure is not very well guarded? What do you think would happen to me?
Nothing.
Do you say, well, that's fine, that's just free speech? Or do you think I'd get a knock on the door?
You wouldn't get a knock on the door, David, for that. What is wrong with you, David?
I can't tell you, David. I can't speak for the security services. I can't speak for the police.
Yeah, another one, someone's just mentioned their name, Matt Goodwin. All these people, as I say, my analysis of tonight is...
I can't speak for Matt Goodwin either.
Yeah, but I think you have produced this. I don't think you mean any malice by it.
Yes, you do.
I think
yes, you do.
A wee bit of, if I'm being blunt, a bit of ego on your part. You've liked the attention.
What?
You've liked the fact that people are having you on.
What?
You've seen the numbers on these shows, and
you
unwittingly, you have given these people credence to their lunacy.
No, you're
as I point out,
oh my gosh,
people are lunatics. Peter Whittle is a lunatic. Matt Goodwin is a lunatic. Douglas Murray's a lunatic.
Oh, come on. Say David Bett's a lunatic as well. Why don't you, David? You really... It's so bad. Tell us... Oh, my God. This is so bad. Stop the hammering.
Tommy Robinson is a coke-addled lunatic.
Oh.
None of these people should get given any credence, because I tell you what's going to happen is people are going to listen to them, and they're going to end up going out and they're going to do something stupid. And they're going to spend the rest of their life in prison.
They're not going to do anything stupid, David.
You've just given a long list of people whom I have not cited in any of the academic work that I've published.
Boom.
Nor have I.
They're all orgasming over this, David. They're loving it.
Orgasming.
They're loving this. Oh, King's College professor says coming civil war. And then have you seen the comments on these videos?
What?
Speaking my language, finally the university man is agreeing with me. Like, do you not think that?
No.
Are you not worried that like people are it gives credence to these people?
What?
It gives legitimacy to them.
I reclaim my time.
Interesting, you should use that word. How do you mean it?
Well, I mean that it legitimizes these people's wet dream.
What is it?
Civil war in this.
Hang on. Orgasmic wet dream? What the hell is up with David? Can somebody please explain how his mind is working? He's making an awful lot of very highly sexual references, Two men talking about what? This is a great insight into a narcissistic psychopath who's completely got Zionist derangement syndrome or Tommy Robinson derangement syndrome. He's got all kinds of derangement syndromes going on, and this is just a doozy.
This country.
You use the word wet dream. Why?
Because they are fantasists. These people are people who have...
Sorry, the people that you've just mentioned are fantasists.
Yes.
What? What?
And paid troublemakers.
Now you didn't tell me that this guy, David Clueless, is not hope not hate. Come on. There is something seriously wrong with the way David's mind is working. David Clueless, to try to suggest that the people like Tommy Robinson and everybody else actually wants to have a conflict shows how out of touch David Clueless is with regards to how people are feeling. They're concerned about the situation. That's why they're speaking about it, because they're concerned about the level of violence and they want it to stop. Okay? They don't want it. They don't want conflict. So, I'm sorry. Who the hell is... who's behind David Clueless? Who's coaching him? Because it just doesn't make any sense. And usually the left don't make any sense. They just completely don't make... There's no logic to their arguments. It doesn't fit. And he's proving himself on this one. Absolutely a doozy to me. Without any shadow of a doubt. Weird. Just weird. Weird mind. So let me just finish this. Let me go back and let him finish his unhinged ranting. There's a problem.
Gives legitimacy to them.
Interesting, you should use that word. How do you mean it?
Well, I mean that it legitimizes these people's wet dream of a civil war in this country.
Oh my God.
You use the word wet dream. Why?
Because they are fantasists. These people are people who have...
Sorry, the people that you've just mentioned are fantasists.
Yes.
Thank you, Beach Bear.
And paid troublemakers, paid agitators. These people are all paid for by Israel and as I said, Jewish Zionist interests, whose interests are incompatible with the people of this country.
Can I do for Jewish Zionists? Does that count as two shots?
And these people then co-opt their interests to try and
well, you should. It would have been great if you did. Sorry, may I intrude for a moment?
May I intrude on your rant?
It would have been better if you'd mentioned your thesis about.
He's not far right.
Jewish
Give me a break, Tina.
Intrusion.
What the hell?
In British and general Western public affairs through the vehicle of Douglas Murray, so on and so forth, and everyone else that you've mentioned so far, presumably many others at the beginning of the interview and not now.
Why would you not have done
it?
Might have been better prepared.
What? Am I telling lies? Is Douglas Murray not paid for by like the Council for Foreign Relations?
No, you have used the words wet dream,
orgasmic,
fantasist. Because, but it is, David. People shouldn't be dreaming of an upcoming civil war.
What?
And look, you might then say to me, "Well, David Clues, you're just dampening people's spirits." Well, I love this country, and I only care about this country. I don't want to see it descend into a civil war. I am arguing there are
neither do I. But that doesn't make that doesn't make a difference. You know,
but can you
I'm not saying that I
that
want
your
this.
talking point?
The fact that when one does any any kind of strategic analysis, you're not asking for wars to occur.
Exactly. You're just saying what
but the fact is, you have gone very specifically on podcasts of all these groups of people So
What?
you've not gone and taken this
and onto yours.
Exactly.
And I'm very appreciative that you've gone and done that, but I'm the first person that's actually questioned you on it or offered an alternative.
No, but the specific tenor of your questions actually is really quite different. I mean, you've hardly asked me very much about the thesis itself.
Boom.
You've mostly wished to explore my hidden agenda, which there is none, and made remarks about other people whom I am not.
Well, these people's agenda isn't hidden, though. These people's agenda is pretty out in the open, exactly what they want and exactly their role is they playing.
No.
I'm just
Wrong.
asking, can you not acknowledge that this certain group of people have been the ones that have fully taken up your analysis and pushed it?
Who's Vlogzog and what do you mean?
I cannot speak for Douglas Murray because I haven't spoken to Douglas Murray. I've been on his podcast.
Vlogzog.
If he has one.
You're welcome, Kitty B.
I've spoken to are Louise Perry and Peter Whittle. There have been many other people who have asked me to speak whom I've decided not to speak to. I'm not a public figure. I don't spend my time generally speaking to camera, doing podcasts is a new experience.
It goes
I
on.
can't speak for these people's intention. The fact of the matter is, like you, there are people who read the paper that I wrote or heard things that I spoke of, thought it was interesting, asked me to speak, and I spoke to in good faith.
I'm going to tell you now, so my apologies, it's now midnight. I didn't realize how late it was. I've been on now 3 hours and I hadn't realized I wasn't intending to cover this, but it just got so, I became very involved. And this goes on for another 20 minutes. What I might do, I mean, it's almost like a study in psychology, right? In psychosis, it's somebody who's just too fixated on a topic that he really doesn't understand and he's not being fair about. Okay, so anyway, it's another 20 minutes. I don't have time to continue. So I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. I mean, it's been a bit of a doozy. And I say, I'll maybe finish it off on whatever day, Friday. It's 20 more minutes. I didn't realize it was that long. I thought it was just over an hour. I didn't pay attention. So anyway, who's Vlogzog anyway? Now, just to finish, so Donald Trump put the South African president in his place, which was just delicious to watch. If you haven't seen that, you must check out how Donald Trump put the South African president in his place. And of course, the fake stream media news, the lamestream legacy media is doing everything to condemn Donald Trump, Orange Mad Bad, as opposed to addressing the horrors that President Trump has exposed that has been not addressed by the fake stream media news. So it really was it's been an interesting evening, and we'll just finish off just quickly by looking at the latest prices of our wonderful cryptos. And again, Tina, you know, I can't do a conversation or have any kind of discussion with you about David Clueless in the chat. I just can't. It's just not going to work. But you have to understand. Maybe if you listen, you know, he's just too fixated, and he's attributed things to people that he doesn't actually factually know. It's just his opinion about how he's interpreted things, and not based on any facts, just on his own mind. So anyway, it's we've got Bitcoin at 108,771. Now I'm not sure what the all-time high is, but it's pretty close to that. So it's quite very, very interesting. The crypto market is picking up, and of course that's because legislation is going through. A lot of things are in the pipeline, and you know, as I said, and I've said before, my Virtual Island, I'm hoping will be a thing of the near future that I'll be able to enjoy, as many of you who are in the XRP crew will be able to too, as long as you've got some expat tokens. Yeah, baby. So, as I said, this went on for much longer than I intended. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking it out with me in DLive, in Rumble, and Foxhole. And, okay, so it was 1 hour and 40 minutes. I didn't realize it was that long. Didn't realize he'd spoken to him that long, but he was trying to keep him on to try to get him to break. But of course, he's not going to break because David was making no sense. Anyway, all right, have a great couple of days. Things are just going to get more heated. Brexit has been betrayed. No big surprise. We've got the Starmer, Pervy Starmer in power. He is EU shill, World Economic Forum shill, and I don't really want to talk about old Keir. So, Mr. Queer Keir, how about that? Let's give him... I just made that up. Oh, even at this time, after this long, I still have it in me. Queer Keir, how about that one? Hashtag Rent Boys, maybe, just saying. Who set fire to some of his stuff that the fake stream media isn't going to pay attention to. So, listen, until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, have a great evening. And just for your delectable pleasure, on the way out, we'll just take a look at our wonderful XRP spinning, all the transactions going beautifully through and none making mistakes. There we go. So until Friday, have a great couple of days. Remember, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. I thought I was going to show you that, which I have now. And until, as I said, until Friday, I don't know who's on Foxhole to hand over to. Do Matt 1776, shall we? Hang on. Let's do a raid with Matt 17. That looks like a good one to do a raid on. So, thank you for the lemons. No gold pills tonight. Until Friday. Take care, everybody. Have a great one. Based Amy. Oh, did I say if you tolerate this, then your children will be next? It's true, you know. Based Amy. Out.